Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of the Gamma Ray Report. My name is Rose Gamma Ray. I'm an aerospace engineering professional, lifelong science enthusiast, and complete space nerd. And my goal on this channel is simple, and it's to take fascinating science and explain it in a way that's accessible, engaging, and hopefully makes you look at the world and the universe a little bit differently. First of all, thank you all so much for joining me tonight as we get back to our regularly scheduled Sunday programming. I was away for a couple of weeks, but we are back to business now. And honestly, I really missed you guys. These live streams would definitely not be possible without all of you guys tuning in to watch and engage and ask questions. So thank you all for being here. And I think we've been doing this for almost 2 months now. And I've really gotten into this routine and I'm really enjoying it. And so thank all of you for being part of this fun and thriving community that we're building. So tonight we are diving into one of the most extraordinary animals on our planet, which is the shark. Now, sharks do have a bit of a reputation. Depending on who you ask, people are either fascinated by them, they think they're evolutionary masterpieces, or sometimes it could even be the reason why some people refuse to swim in more than 10 feet of water, or swim 10 feet away from the beach. Hollywood has certainly turned them into monsters. Shark Week has turned them into celebrities. And if you search something like shark on YouTube, as I did when I was preparing, doing my research for this video, you'll find thousands of videos of dramatic shark attacks and giant teeth and people yelling while there's ominous music playing in the background. But tonight we're going to do something different. We're not necessarily here to ask, are sharks dangerous or are they scary? We're here to ask a much more interesting question, which is, how did nature create one of the most successful predators that Earth has ever seen? Because the part that really blows my mind is that sharks have actually been around for more than 450 million years. And to put that into perspective, that means that sharks were swimming through Earth's oceans before dinosaurs even existed and before our continents look even remotely the way that they do today. They've survived various mass extinction events, and this is all while some other, big, fearsome predators have come and gone, but sharks have been here the whole time. So what makes sharks different? What did evolution get so incredibly right about sharks? And after we go through all of that, maybe by the end of tonight, you might see sharks as one of nature's greatest engineering achievements. But before we get into any of that, I would like to introduce my very special and somewhat dangerous predator herself co-host for tonight, Goldie Gamari.
Hi. Hello. Dangerous predator, huh? I'm going to keep that in mind.
Am I wrong?
I mean, no, you're not wrong. I mean, I am a predator, but I hunt durkas, but that's for another live stream.
That's so funny. Well, welcome, Goldie. Thanks so much for joining tonight. How are you?
I'm doing great, honestly. Like, I really missed your live streams, and I'm super thrilled to be here. I missed your channel. I missed our Sunday night, evening, sort of just chill out spaces, right? But yeah, I'm doing great, and I'm excited to learn all about sharks. And I mean, I could totally make like a Rafsanjani comment right now, because Rafsanjani, we call him the kuse in Persian, the shark, but I'll save that reference for tomorrow. I've spoken about that before, but very interested to learn about sharks. And, it's just such a nice break from all the geopolitics that I do, coming here and learning about, science and fun and all that stuff. And guys, just a quick housekeeping rule. For anyone who's watching this live stream on my YouTube channel, the comments are closed. The only reason I'm live streaming this on my YouTube channel is just so that people who are interested in an optional school field trip, you can join us on Rose's live stream channel. The link is both in the live stream and in the video description. If you want to participate in the live stream chat, or if you want to ask Rose questions, make sure you come to her channel because that's where the conversation is happening. But yeah, really happy to be here.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the shout out, Goldie. And again, so lovely to have you.
You
So,
just like having me here because I don't know anything about science. And so, like, when I say something, it just, you're like, haha, I'm smarter. And I'm teasing. I'm teasing.
oh my God, I've literally never done that. But
Yeah.
next time you say something weird, I'm going to call you out and be like, haha, I'm smart. No, I'm joking. I'm not going to do that. But okay, so before we get into things, I kind of want to get a general vibe on how our audience feels about sharks in general. So I have a little poll that I've set up. So I'm going to start that now. I'm going to put it up here. And so the question is, finish the sentence. Sharks are 1, terrifying, 2, fascinating, 3, misunderstood, and 4, nature's perfect predator. So I kind of want to get a bit of a vibe check to see how people tonight watching feel about sharks in general. Goldie, what do you think?
So I put number 3.
Oh, misunderstood. Okay.
Yeah.
And why do you say that?
Because I think Hollywood oftentimes will, they'll make something very dramatic. And so, in order to sell a movie or a plot or whatever, they're always looking for the bad guy, the villain, whatever the case may be. So Hollywood sells image of sharks being evil. However, what we know within the animal kingdom is that animals are not inherently evil, right? Like animals do what they do to survive. So sharks are just part of the ecosystem. And just because they have, scary teeth or whatever, doesn't necessarily mean that they're evil in any way, shape, or form. Because unlike humans, sharks don't kill for pleasure, right? Like within the animal kingdom, predators, right? Like it's nature, right? You have to kill to eat, especially if you're a carnivore. So what sharks do, it's just part of the food chain. Um, Unlike certain humans who literally engage in violence for the sake of violence, which is totally different. So that's why I think it's number 3. They're misunderstood, even though they're terrifying, but they're still misunderstood.
Yeah, no, I love that answer. And obviously you could believe in more than one option on in the poll here, but it's just what you feel the most, the most strongly about. But yeah, I think that's an excellent answer. And we'll get into some of the stats towards the end of the stream about like, shark attacks and like different kind of things like that in terms of risk. And you're actually going to be a little bit surprised about some of the things we end up going over. But I'm going to stop the poll now. So it seems like we have most people who feel like sharks are nature's perfect predator, followed by misunderstood, and then, followed by fascinating, and then misunderstood, and then a small percentage of people who think they're terrifying. And Goldie, I think, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I just want to say something. So the only reason I didn't put number 4, nature's perfect predator, is because, and I remember this from like high school, I think, or I don't know, some documentary that I watched a long time ago. Correct me if I'm wrong, but sharks are not at the top of the predator apex because if I'm not mistaken, I think like whales, like orcas hunt sharks. So sharks are not nature's perfect predator because there is something on top of them that literally hunts sharks. So I think orcas would actually be nature's perfect predator within this context of like the sea.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. And I noticed people mentioned this in the chat as well. So orcas are definitely considered apex predators. And as you mentioned, like a lot of the times they do also hunt shark. And I like in a 1-to-1 battle, orcas would definitely have the upper hand. But when you look at it from a timeline perspective and how long sharks have been around versus how long orcas have been around. Sharks have been around for far, far longer. So sharks have been around for 450 million years. Orcas, I think, are around maybe like 5 to 6 million years that they've been around. So yeah, modern orcas evolved a lot later than sharks. And so part of the things that we're going to talk about tonight is why sharks have been successful for so long, allowing them to remain one of the top predators in the ocean. But yeah, you're right. So you're not wrong about this one, Goldie.
Okay, there you go.
Okay, awesome. So yeah, like as I mentioned, there are a lot of big predators out there in general. So orcas are these incredible hunters. We have a lot of big cats in the wilderness that are phenomenal predators. We have some amazing birds of prey that are unbelievably specialized. So what is it about sharks that, makes people so fascinated with them? Like, why are there so many stories about sharks and movies about sharks? And part of that reason is just how old they are. So they've been around for hundreds of millions of years. And I know sometimes it's easy to hear a number like, 450 million and just kind of let it wash over you, because once you start to talk about like such a long period of time, our brains sometimes stop processing what that actually means. So let's put this number into perspective. Okay. So when the very first sharks appeared, there were no dinosaurs. In fact, dinosaurs wouldn't actually show up for another couple of 100 millions of years. So by the time the first shark was there was no birds, there was no mammals, there were no flowers, there weren't even trees yet at this point. And one of my favorite science facts, and I think it's one of those facts that kind of permanently changes the way you look at sharks, is that sharks predate trees. And like when I think about a tree, I think that, like they're ancient, they're everywhere. They almost seem kind of timeless, but trees didn't actually evolve until roughly 350 million years ago, meaning that sharks had already been swimming around for about 100 million years before the first forests even really started to appear.
Okay, that's insane. That's insane because for some reason, just I would have assumed that trees are older than sharks because trees, they don't have like a brain or eyes or like the lungs or the things that make an animal, right? But the fact that um sharks had evolved 100 million years before trees, like that's wild to me. I did not know that. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So trees have definitely been around for a really, really long time, but sharks definitely predate that. And so hopefully this kind of puts it into perspective to really understand what this 450 million years means. There are certainly other animals like jellyfish, for example, which are also very, very old, and, certain other microorganisms that are very old. But what makes sharks very extraordinary is that they never really stopped succeeding as an animal. So even after our planet experienced these different mass extinction events, some of the most dominant animals to have ever existed, left and died, whether it was dinosaurs or some other animals. But the shark remained. The shark remained. Even the megalodon, which is the largest predatory shark that we've ever discovered, that eventually disappeared itself. And we're going to get into that a little bit later as well. But sharks as a group are not only still here, but they are thriving. So it's quite fascinating. And today there are even more than 540 different kinds of species of shark that are living all over the oceans around the world, and we're going to explore why they're still here even to this day. So it's definitely
Rose,
really
someone asked really quickly, where do cockroaches fall in the timeline? I was very interested about this as well before I saw that chat. So
yeah.
I looked it up, and cockroaches are apparently like 200 million years. So cockroaches are are not as old as sharks or trees.
Okay. Yeah, so I can understand that because Earth life essentially started in the ocean, right? So it started in the ocean until eventually organisms started to go onto land and we started to develop, the trees and the land animals that came along with that. But yeah, Amberly, I also hate cockroaches.
Oh,
God, they're so gross, but
oh.
but yes, they are quite gross. So
No.
what?
Sorry. No, no, I can't.
Okay. Yeah. So the question now is, how have they been around for so long? So what is it that has made sharks different? And that really comes down to how natural selection works. So I'm going to switch to the next diagram. And by the way, guys, all these diagrams are available in our third companion pack. Companion pack number 3, sharks, about sharks, which I think I pinned it in the comments earlier today. So if you're interested in that and following along and having access to the graphics, that's available for you. And any channel members get 60% off the companion pack. So that's there for anyone who wants a copy. So every generation of animal is a little bit different from the one that before it. So you have these tiny random genetic changes that happen all the time. Most of the time, those changes don't really matter. And, sometimes there could be an evolutionary change that can be harmful between generations. But every once in a while, one of those changes gives an animal a very, very small advantage. Maybe it's something that could make a shark swim a little bit more efficiently. Maybe it, is able to spot prey a little bit sooner. Maybe it's able to escape another predator, one extra time. Or maybe it is able to survive long enough to just have a few more offspring. Oh no, did we miss the magic Q400? Guys, it's okay. The magic school plane has not left.
We guys, this is the intro. We haven't gone yet to Sharkland. So no, you did not miss the magic Q100.
Yeah. This is the intro. Let's go with that. Okay, guys, hold on. Please hold. Put on your seatbelts and get your permission slips ready because we're about to hop on our magic school plane and go to the land of sharks, which, some people call the ocean. So guys, this is my Magic Q400. This is the plane that I used to work on when I was working in aerospace. It's my little baby. It's a very cute plane. If you ever get a chance to fly on a Q400, I highly recommend it. But yeah, there you go. We are on our way to the land of sharks.
AKA the ocean.
Oh no, Jeremy, you forgot your father's signature. Well, if I look the other way, you can, maybe forge a signature. I won't tell anyone.
What about Daniel? A shark ate his permission slip.
Well, then in that case, the shark is allowed to come on the trip. Sorry, not you, Daniel. Just the shark. But okay, so going back to our natural selection chart. Every single generation is able to produce something that is, just a tiny bit better than the previous generations. And these tiny differences aren't really producing something that noticeable in short spans of time. But when you're talking over hundreds of millions of years, which is the case of the shark, it really is able to produce kind of this ultimate predator. And when it comes to something like natural selection in general, one thing that's really important to point out is that if something isn't useful for a specific animal, it stops being produced. So if an adaptation stops being useful, eventually it ends up disappearing. So if the environment changes and your body, for instance, is no longer suited for that specific adaptation. It doesn't matter how successful your parents were, or your grandparents, your ancestors were with that specific adaptation. It's going to start moving away from that as new generations come into play. And for example, when you look at a shark as it is today, you're not looking at an animal that nature got right on the first try. You're looking at the results of countless of hundreds of millions of tiny experiments that have had millions of generations to become optimized over time. And the question that keeps coming up is this an adaptation that is helping this specific animal? And if the answer is yes, then that trait slowly starts to become more and more common. And if the answer is no, then eventually that trait starts to disappear. And, before the shark became one of ocean's greatest hunters, it first had to master movement. We're going to watch a quick video now. And as you're about to see, almost everything about a shark is allowing it to be built around efficiently moving through water. Have you ever seen a shark swim through water, Goldie?
I mean, in documentaries and stuff, but not in real life, no. I mean, actually, no. You know what? I did see like a hammerhead shark, I think years ago when I was down in the Caribbean for like a vacation or something. But I think that was like 15
Wow.
years ago. I might have seen like a hammerhead, but
That's
no,
really
not
cool.
not up close. I'm looking forward to this.
I have a little hammerhead.
Oh, so cute.
Hold on, let me focus in on it. You guys like my little shark?
That is so adorable.
Ooh. Okay, sorry.
Baby shark, do 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 do. Baby shark, do 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 do. Baby shark, do do do.
Okay, I was wondering when you're gonna start singing that. What are we at? Like 20 minutes in? You're singing Baby Shark.
There we go.
Love it. Okay, so we're going to watch a quick video now. This is actually from a documentary on Netflix called The Shark Whisperer. Let me just share my screen here. Okay, I'm not going to play the audio just because the audio is, there's not really much audio. It's just like underwater swimming sounds. But
Rose, I'm kind of like a singer now, given, the songs that I sing on my own live streams. So if you want, I'm more than happy to, provide the background music.
yeah, let's go. Let's see what you got.
No, absolutely not. I was joking.
No.
But we have you have the well, pause it for a moment.
I have music that I can play.
Yeah, play some music from that you loaded up.
I wanted to talk a little bit as the video was playing, which is why I
Go for it.
The music just yet. But if I'm done talking and the video's still playing, then we'll go for the music. But okay, so this is actually a video from Ocean Ramsey. So Ocean Ramsey is an amazing woman. She's American. If you've spent time on social media, you've probably seen some of her videos. They're absolutely incredible. And she's done a huge amount to get people talking about sharks in a different way. She's a shark conservationist, and she actually has a really incredible documentary on Netflix called The Shark Whisperer, and I recommend everyone to watch that. And so I should say Ocean is an experienced diver, so please don't watch this and think that you can do this safely on your next vacation. She understands shark behavior, their body language, their positioning, and she spends an enormous time in the water with these animals. But what I love specifically about this footage is that it kind of challenges the image that we've built up in our heads from, Hollywood movies like Jaws, for instance. Like, the sharks aren't charging around in this sort of like feeding frenzy. They're calm, they're curious, and honestly, they're just kind of swimming around and like
Are those
see.
like dolphins beside?
Yeah, yeah, they're dolphins, and so, they're not these mindless maniacs that are just wild. They're curious. They're swimming around. They're calm, and what I think is really interesting, and like their faces are quite terrifying, but I what I think is really fascinating is just how little effort it seems to take these sharks just to move around. So I want you to just really focus on the way they're moving. There's no It doesn't look like there's any sort of wasted energy here. It almost looks like it's even flying underwater. And this is essentially like 450 million years of pure refinement to allow it to develop this super efficient body of just, it's essentially just its tail just kind of flipping back and forth, gently allowing it to propel forward. So very, very interesting. Every part of their body, from their skeleton to their skin to the shape of their fins, has been refined over these, millions of years to allow it to move through water as efficiently as possible. So I just think it's a very fascinating engineering of nature. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Because I mean, just look at how, you know what, it kind of, when you say this, it reminds me of like eagles or other birds where when they're up in the air, very little energy is used because it's like they just have their, wings out, and then they're just kind of gliding, using the air currents to just, keep them in the air to go up and down and stuff, right? And you're right, like they're not moving a lot. And what's really interesting is that the movement of the tail is not up and down the way like we swim. Their movement is left to right, which to me shows that perhaps the left to right movement is probably more energy efficient than up or down.
Yes, absolutely. That's exactly it. It definitely helps with the optimization of this animal. And yeah, we're going to get into some of those swim mechanics in a bit. But what I think is very interesting also, as an aerospace engineering professional myself, is I like to think about sharks being the perfect predator from an engineering perspective. So like if I came to you and I said, like, I need you to design a machine that can patrol enormous distances, accelerate super quickly when it needs to, is able to catch these really fast moving prey and do it all while using as little energy as possible. That's actually quite a challenging engineering problem because any sort of movement costs energy. Every flick of the tail, every turn, and like even if you look at the dolphin is moving its tail up and down. It's not left to right. So every sort of movement burns calories, and in the wild, calories are, very essential currency. They're everything. If you waste too much energy chasing prey that you don't eventually catch, eventually you're going to starve. Nature is very unforgiving in that way. And so, one of the first things that nature had to solve was how to make sharks move more efficiently. And so, I'm going to go over shark anatomy real quick. And guys, I have another little shark. So this is my great white with its mouth open coming at you. So the first thing that you probably notice about a shark in general is their shape. And so I have a question for everyone in the chat, which is, what shape does a shark remind you of? What shape, guys? So look at the way it's built. Kind of tapered a little bit. Okay, Daniel says triangle. Interesting. Ooh, okay. Atgi says a bullet, and then people are saying torpedo. I think Jeremy was the first guy who said torpedo. And yeah, absolutely. So um, their bodies are incredibly streamlined, and engineers have actually developed a word for this, and it's we call it fusiform. It's a fusiform body, and it means it's a little bit wider in the middle and then tapers smoothly towards both ends, almost like a torpedo. And so, if you've ever even looked at a submarine or the fuselage of an airplane, as you see here in my trusty Q400, it's shaped very similarly. So it's wider in the middle, and then it has these tapered ends. And it's because all of these things are essentially trying to solve the same problem, which is how do you move through a fluid, in this case, water for a shark, or in the case of an airplane, air. How do you move through these fluids while creating as little drag as possible? Now, obviously, air and water are very different. Water is about 800 times denser than air, so moving through it is a lot harder than moving through water. But the physics behind, that kind of movement are remarkably similar. Anytime you're moving through a fluid, that specific fluid pushes back at you, whether it's water or whether it's air. And that specific pushback is called drag. And the more drag you create, the harder you have to work and the more energy essentially you waste. And nature hates wasting energy. So, over hundreds of millions of years, sharks gradually evolved this incredibly streamlined shape that helps them slip through the water with surprisingly very little resistance. And honestly, I think it's really beautiful from an engineering standpoint. And I find it fascinating how engineers have tried to design like efficient vehicles around how sharks are made. We often end up arriving at shapes that nature's already figured out how to build hundreds of millions of years ago. And we like to think that we're inventing something new, but a lot of the times we're really just rediscovering solutions that nature's been already testing out and proving for years and years. And so almost every feature you see on this body contributes in some way to how the shark moves through water. So starting at the front, you've got the snout, which we'll talk about later, but it's not just there to make the shark look intimidating, but it's packed with these, very incredible sensory organs that help the shark detect prey. And so right behind that, you have the eyes, the mouth, there are these gills. You have between 5 to 7 gills here, depending on the species of shark. And then, obviously gills are there to allow it to breathe underwater. So instead of breathing through lungs like we do, sharks extract oxygen directly from the water as it flows over its gills. And then moving further back, you probably have the most recognizable feature of the shark, which is this large dorsal fin on top, which is there for stability. So you can think of it like a vertical stabilizer on a plane. So this is a vertical stabilizer on the plane. It's essentially the same thing serves the same purpose as the dorsal fin, which is to keep it from rolling side to side as it's swimming. And then moving further back, you have these. Oops. You have the pectoral fins, which are incredibly important. These kind of can be like the wings on an airplane in a way, and it actually helps it to move around. And one thing that's also really interesting is that most people don't realize that sharks are constantly having to deal with gravity as well. So gravity is still pulling them down, and it's really pulling everything down. So The only reason that they don't just sink to the bottom is because several different adaptations are working together to help keep the shark remain up. And then one of those adaptations are these pectoral fins. And so essentially, as they're moving through water, they are generating lift, very much like an airplane wing as it generates lift in the air. These pectoral fins are allowing the shark to generate lift in the water. So the underlying principles of the physics is very similar between a shark and an airplane. I don't know, I think that's really cool. But yeah, like the amount of lift that the pectoral fins are creating isn't on its own enough to support the shark to prevent it from sinking. So there's actually something else that the shark has, which is its liver, which is this oil-filled liver, which we're going to talk a little bit about later, which helps the shark to stay naturally buoyant. And then continuing back, you have these smaller pelvic fins and then the anal fin. And then these are mostly acting as additional stabilizers, and they kind of keep the shark balanced and preventing any sort of unwanted pitching or rolling. And then finally, you get to what is arguably, one of the most interesting parts of its body, which is the tail, the caudal tail. Unlike the dolphin, which we saw, which moves its tail up and down, the sharks move their tail from side to side. And then that's where the vast majority of its propulsion comes from. And we're going to watch this in slow motion in a second, just because I think it's honestly pretty amazing to see how little energy it just seems to be using when it's swimming around in the ocean. So yeah, this is your basic shark anatomy. So, okay, before we get to the tail video, I also want to quickly just talk about the cartilage. So, if I asked you what your skeleton is made of, you would probably say, bones. Sharks don't have bones. They actually have cartilage, which is what they are made of on the inside. And so their skeleton is almost made up entirely of cartilage, which is like the same material that you get like in your ear and in your nose. Like if you touch it, it's kind of like malleable a bit. Cartilage is lighter than bone, which means that sharks don't actually have to carry around as much weight as as other bony fish. And this is a huge advantage in water, where reducing the weight and increasing efficiency can actually make a huge difference. So just comparing it to like a human bone, for example, human bones are hard and rigid. Sharks are flexible and resistant. Our bones are a lot heavier, whereas shark cartilage is a lot lighter. And then cartilage is just faster to grow, easier to repair. So this is a huge advantage for this animal. And then one thing that humans often encounter as they age is that our bones end up becoming, brittle and, less efficient over time. But this doesn't matter for a shark. So shark cartilage remains flexible throughout their life, and that helps keep them, at the top of the food chain for, as long as they're kind of there. And so also the shark's skeleton is built in a way where it doesn't need to survive huge impacts. So for example, a human, there might be a time where, like we might fall from a specific height, as an example, like, we might break our bones too, but we're built in a more sturdy way compared to a shark, because like a shark is never going to be in a situation, I don't think, where it's going to like fall from a cliff, for example. So it doesn't need to have this internal support structure, whereas a human, for instance, is built for a different purpose. So shark skeletons are built to allow it to move through water, essentially. And that's why, it's kind of got the perfect body for that. And so now I want to move back to the tail. So this is a slow motion video of a mako shark. And what I want you guys to focus on is just the tail for a second, because most of the shark's body isn't moving or flailing around. The head stays remarkably stable. The body bends in these kind of smooth waves, and almost all of the propulsion is coming from the tail. And that means very, very little energy is wasted overall. It's really a very beautiful and efficient system. Oh, Newton says it's pronounced mako. Thank you. Mako shark, not mako, mako. What would I do without the chat guy?
Yeah, Rose is not always right. Hashtag Rose is not always right. Just say.
Potato.
You say potato, I say potato. Isn't that like a song or something? It's like a song from my childhood.
I don't know, but like any excuse I get to hear you sing, you sign me up.
We should one day we should share with everyone our visit to the Potato Museum, the Canadian Potato Museum.
Oh my goodness.
You know what? You should do a live stream on potatoes, because you visited the Canadian Potato Museum.
I think there are a lot more exciting topics before we get to potatoes. Maybe one day when we're running low on topics, I can talk about potatoes. But if you guys want to live stream on potatoes, put a P in the chat. We'll see, how people are actually interested. But okay. Potatoes are delicious. What's your favorite? Oh, people. Okay, Newton, you don't actually want a potato live stream. Minor, come on. No, Jeremy, Christopher, guys. Baby Yoda. Oh, I highlighted the wrong one. Miss Potato Heads. That's so funny. But guys, potatoes are interesting. Like, especially if I can relate it to like the movie Martian. If you guys saw that movie, Goldie, have you seen The Martian?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, so it's where like Matt Damon gets stuck on Mars, and then eventually he has to figure out how to survive, and then he ends up relying on potatoes and fertilizer from his own body to kind of grow these potatoes. But I don't know how exciting I can make it, but maybe one day we can talk about potatoes.
Yeah. But guys, Rose visited the Canadian Potato Museum in PEI, and he has a picture with a giant potato.
Okay, but so did you.
I know.
We went there because you wanted to go there.
Oh, I wanted to go there. You're the one who sent it.
Yeah, as a joke. Guys, we ended up driving about 1.5 hours out of the way to go to this potato museum that I think maybe we spent like 20 minutes at, but like 1.5 hour one way and 1.5 hour back. So like
it was worth it.
A 3-hour detour to visit the Canadian Potato Museum. You know what? It was worth it.
It was worth it.
No regrets. I loved it, and yeah, we got some great memories from the
and I was wearing like my brown pants, so I was kind of dressed like a potato anyway. So
yeah.
There you go.
We were potato vibing. Boil them, mash them, stick them in a stew.
There you go.
But yeah, so guys, as you can see from this mako shark, they are very efficient in moving through water. This is just one example of a shark moving through water, obviously, but a lot of them are, imagine you're in the water and you just see this swimming towards you. but yeah, like they're essentially built for efficiency. And I think that's really interesting. So I just want to summarize this movement section before we move on to some of the other cool shark facts.
Wait, Rose, someone is asking, do sharks eat potatoes?
Potatoes are not part of the natural diet of a shark.
Okay.
But if you ate a potato and a shark ate you, well then yes, the shark will eat potatoes. Okay, so just to summarize this section, essentially, sharks are built for efficiency. They have this really cool streamlined shape. They have these fins for control. Their shape allows them to have less drag as they move through water. It allows them to have low energy use, really fast acceleration when they need it. They're able to go these like really long distances of just cruising because they're not using a lot of energy. And then that also allows them to have really good pursuit of prey. And so every detail helps them to kind of stay ahead of the game and, be really, really good predators. So yeah, sharks are killing it. So we've talked about, their extraordinary efficiency moving through the ocean, but obviously efficiency itself isn't enough. You also need to be able to eat, catch your prey. You need to hunt. You need to be, able to see your prey. The ocean is often, it has poor visibility sometimes, and the prey could be hiding, and you're also surrounded by like endless water just everywhere around you. So the question now becomes, how do sharks actually find their next meal? Goldie, do you know like any cool shark senses? Like what comes to mind when you think of like really extraordinary sensory abilities that sharks have?
The sense of smell. I feel like sharks can smell like a drop of blood from like a long way away somehow in the water. And that's what like takes them to like injured animals or something.
Okay. Francis also says nose. Okay. Armin also says, sorry, Amir. Amir also says smell. What else do you guys think? Ooh, lateral line. So Rag first says lateral line. Okay, we're gonna get into that as well. Interesting. So some really good answers here. And yes, so ooh, Dog 85 says electrical. Okay. So we're going to get into all of these. And like essentially, a shark obviously doesn't have a GPS like, humans have on our phones. They don't have like a radar or a screen kind of telling them where the nearest prey is. And, in a lot of these parts of the ocean, the visibility is terrible. And depending on the water conditions, you might only able to see a couple of feet in front of you. And so what's really interesting about a shark is that they don't just have one incredible sense. They actually have an entire toolkit of these amazing senses where each sense becomes more and more useful as the shark gets closer to its target. And that's something that I didn't really appreciate about sharks until I started to read more about shark biology, because I always kind of imagined sharks smelling blood from like miles and miles away and then kind of charging towards that specific prey like a missile. But it turns out that that's not actually how it works. And instead, it's almost like kind of like an investigation. So each sense hands off information to the next one, kind of like a relay race. And all of the senses build up one after the other to allow it to actually hunt and to catch its prey. So the first sense actually is hearing. So anytime there's like movement in the water, something's thrashing, the hearing is what comes into play. So I actually have a question for the chat and for you, Goldie. Do you think that sound travels faster through water or through air?
Water.
Why?
Because there's more atoms, so that there's more vibration, so the vibrations happen faster.
Oh, you're so smart. Yes. Good job, Goldie. See, like, I can't even catch you because.
No, you can. But I just know this because it's like I don't know. I can't remember the explanation, but something to do with like density and like vibrations. And yes, I added scary music.
Okay, I was like, what is that? I was like, is my audio on? Like,
no, I added scary music because now you're talking about shark hunting.
Yeah. Sorry, not hunting sharks, but sharks hunting.
Sharks hunting, yes. So yeah. The scary background music is now you're talking about.
Oh God, I'm getting chills. But yeah, you're absolutely right. So sounds actually travel faster through water because and it travels around 4 to 5 times faster in water compared to air because water particles are packed much more closely together than air particles. Guys, we would love to play the Jaws music, but you know, it's copyrighted, unfortunately. But I would love to play the Jaws music. Goldie, maybe you can sing it.
Doo 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 doo.
Wait.
I don't even know if that's a song, but anyways.
It is.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, but like my science is not the greatest. Like I remember concepts and I just explain it in like the way like a non-sciencey person would, right? So yeah, like I just know there's more molecules that are more densely packed than air. So the vibrations happen faster because the vibrations move. So yeah, sound. Well, but I mean, Rose, that's also the reason why, based on the same logic, sound does not travel through space because space is a vacuum, right? So if you're in space and you're screaming, no one can hear you because there's no atoms or molecules or whatever for the sound vibrations to get to where it needs to go. So screaming in space is actually terrifying, but screaming under the water, you can hear it much better.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. You got it, Goldie. And so this is actually why long before a shark can actually see any sort of animal, the first sense that comes into play is the hearing. So it might already be hearing like a struggling fish, for example, maybe like a seal splashing at the surface of the water that's creating these pressure waves. And these sounds can travel remarkable distances through the ocean. And all of this gives the shark its very first clue that something interesting might be nearby. It doesn't necessarily know yet that, you know, it could be a potential meal, but it just knows like maybe this is something worth investigating to see, like, you know, what it is and like, is this interesting for me? Now, at this point, the shark doesn't know exactly where the prey is yet. It just knows that something is happening. So you can almost think of this like, let's say you hear someone talking in another room in a house. You know that someone's there, but you don't necessarily know where in the room they're standing. You just kind of know the general location of a specific sound. And then after hearing is the smell. So a lot of people mention smell, and Goldie, you mentioned smell as well. So kudos to you. But this is another sense that as the shark gets closer and closer, this sense becomes much more useful. Now, this is one of those topics that is surrounded by myth. And you've probably heard people say that like sharks can smell a single drop of blood from miles and miles away. This is actually not true. Sharks absolutely do have an extraordinary sense of smell, but this specific fact is often exaggerated in popular culture. But what's really impressive is that, you know, they are detecting these tiny concentrations of biologically relevant chemicals that are moving in the water. And what's also interesting is that each nostril in a shark in a shark's face can actually sample water independently. So sharks can compare tiny differences between their left side and their right side based on, what they're smelling, helping them to determine which direction a scent might be getting stronger. So, you know, even like the tiny distance between their nostrils is able to help them navigate more closely to a specific smell just by that tiny difference, which honestly I think is really, really cool itself. It's almost like how our ears work. Like our ears, to a certain extent, can identify where a sound is coming from, except they are doing it with smell, which I think is really cool. Um, Eventually, it's able to use its eyes. So once the smell helps it navigate closer to that particular, potential prey, vision starts taking over. Now, sharks don't have the perfect eyesight, but different species of shark have different visual abilities depending on where it is that they live. A shark hunting near the surface, for example, in bright daylight, doesn't have the same visual system as a deep sea shark that's living in total darkness. So it really depends on the species of shark here. But many sharks do have excellent low light vision, and some of them even have that reflective layer behind their retinas, which bounces light back through their eyes, giving their photoreceptors kind of like a second chance to capture it. This is very similar to dogs and cats. So like, when you look at a dog or a cat and you like see that reflective glowing layer, especially like in photos or something when you take photographs, sharks have that too. So it's why their eyes seem to glow when light's hitting them at night. So all of this helps the shark kind of see in some of those darker environments. After this is when we get to some of the really, really cool stuff. So someone mentioned lateral line. This is one of my favorite systems. When you look very carefully at a shark, you might be able to notice a very faint line running along each side of its body, just behind its head, all the way to its tail. And I'm going to show a quick picture of what this looks like. Okay, so it was actually kind of hard for me to find a good picture of a lateral line in a shark. And so if anyone in the chat is able to find like a good visual representation of like a real life shark with a lateral line, let me know, maybe send it in the chat. But there's this like actual line that if you look really closely at a shark, you're able to see. But underneath that line is an entire sensory system. There's these tiny, tiny receptors called neuromasts, which are essentially these little clusters of hair cells that are sitting beneath the skin. So if you've heard of hair cell before, it's actually because humans have these too. So hair cells are inside of our inner ears, and they're one of the reasons why we can hear and why we're able to maintain our own balance. So it's very similar to the hair cells in a shark. In a shark's case, when sound waves or movement bend those tiny hairs, their brain is able to interpret that information. But instead of detecting vibrations through air, similar to how we do, sharks are detecting these tiny, tiny movements in the water itself. And so remember, like water, as we mentioned, is really dense, about 800 times more dense than air, which means that whenever something swims through the ocean, it's constantly disturbing the water around it. So every single flick of a fish's tail, or every seal struggling, every, boat moving around, even, like schools of tuna kind of turning together, all of this creates these tiny pressure waves that spread outwards. And those pressure waves are invisible to us, but to a shark, it's almost like the water itself all around it is carrying information. And this lateral line that a shark has allows it to read those disturbances in the water. And it also helps them beyond just the prey portion. It allows them to also avoid different kinds of obstacles and helps them maintain formation when they're swimming with other sharks, and helps orient them when they're in like dark or murky water, where vision might not be very useful. So this is a very, very cool sense, and definitely really interesting when it comes to being able to hunt prey. And then after lateral line, so now the shark is very, very close to the prey. It's almost there, but now it actually needs to, be able to know exactly where the prey is. The most impressive thing that I think a shark can do is related to electroreception, because eventually the shark gets close enough that the pressure waves that it detects through the lateral line isn't the best source of information anymore. Now it needs to know exactly where the prey might be. And this is where nature unveils this electroreception piece, which, like, honestly, I think is like a superpower in and of itself. So there's a very special word here that to me sounds like it's a word from Harry Potter, but it's called the, Gold, are you ready for this? It's called the ampullae of Lorenzini.
What? that sounds like a spell.
Yeah, I promise it's not a spell from Harry Potter. I thought it might be. I had to double check, but no, it's called the ampullae of Lorenzini, which is I'll show you exactly what it is. So
yeah, I'm like literally looking this up right now.
So look, guys, we're up in Canada, Canadian Shark Research Lab. So yes, it sounds like a spell from Harry Potter, but it is Latin. It is Latin.
Oh, those are basically blackheads.
Sure.
So what you're telling me is like the blackheads on my face can help
me of Lorenzini. But these blackheads are very, very special because they have special powers. So if you look very closely at the front of a shark's snout, you'll see these tiny dots that are scattered around its nose. And those little pores lead to these jelly-filled canals right behind its face that have these specialized sensory organs buried beneath the skin. And so I want you guys to guess what are these special blackheads able to sense? What are they capable of? What's the magic power, guys? Boxlit says 5 o'clock shadow.
I mean, I can't say because I looked it up, so I already know what they do.
What do the ampullae of Lorenzini allow a shark to sense? Okay. Tony says electrosensors.
Daniel
says the soul. But Omi, that's a good guess, but no, I wish. Honestly, that would be funny. But okay, so every living animal, including humans, is generating electricity all the time. It's not enough to shock anyone, but tiny amounts of electricity that our bodies are developing through the use of our nervous system. So our nervous system communicates through electrical impulses. Our muscles are contracting because of electrical signals. Every single heartbeat begins with electrical activity passing through the heart muscle. Even if we were lying perfectly still, our bodies would still be producing these incredibly faint electrical fields. Normally, those signals are meaningless to us. We as humans have no absolute way of detecting them. But sharks have actually evolved to do exactly that. And this is the purpose of the ampullae of Lorenzini, which are so unbelievably sensitive that they can actually detect electrical fields measuring just a few billionths of a volt per centimeter. So that's an incredibly tiny amount of electricity, Goldie. And so to give you some perspective, we're talking about one of the most sensitive biological sensors ever discovered in any sort of animal.
Well, as Newton says, this is shocking information. But
I don't know if that's sarcastic.
There's something that you said though. It kind of reminds me because like you said, all living beings, including humans, like we generate electricity in some way, shape, or form. But just it's very, very minute. And this kind of reminds me of I could be totally wrong here, so let me know if I'm wrong. But like how when someone is having a heart attack or whatever, and you do like the electric shock, and that's because that electricity, like from the defibrillator, I think it's called, the defibrillator, and that electrical shock helps to sort of like reset the heart, because even like within our own bodies, the heart, and I don't know, I'm assuming like the way it works, there's like some sort of electricity involved with that. And so that's why you have like the electric pump thing to help like restart the heart when like the heart has stopped beating.
Yeah, I think it's something like that. So a defib provides like a very brief but powerful electric shock that kind of like resets the heart's electrical system. So I'd have to do a little bit more research into that, but I think it's kind of like
But my point is that like even the heart has an electrical system.
Everything. Yeah.
So the defib is basically to reset the electrical system within our own bodies, type of thing.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So sharks have just found a way to use the electrical system within their bodies to hunt for prey.
So they're able to sense all of the electrical signals that are being produced by other animals in their vicinity through these ampullae of Lorenzini.
And so this would be even more potent because like it's underwater, and like like we already know that electricity travels really fast underwater, yeah. Right? So this makes it even more powerful. Wow.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I just want to re-emphasize how sensitive this particular sense is. So a shark can detect just a few billionth of a volt per centimeter. And to put that into perspective, like it's not a perfect analogy, but something close would be like, imagine you are able to hear a whisper from a mile away. That would essentially be how sensitive this particular sensor is within the shark. So this is also the reason they have this is because going back to our sorry, I meant to share my screen, but I stopped sharing instead. Okay, let me go back to this. Okay. So going back to our hunting sequence, we're essentially, so we've heard something from far away, our nose has brought us towards it. Now we're kind of looking, our lateral line allows us to kind of feel changes in movement to bring us even closer. The last step is this electroreception. So it's the ampullae of Lorenzini, which allows it to have this electroreception, which really is allowing the shark to have its final moments in the hunt and like really capture that specific prey. And to demonstrate how this works, I want to play a quick video of a hammer shark in action.
Does the video have audio?
It does.
Oh, okay. I guess
we don't have to play audio.
I guess DJ Goldie's services are not required tonight.
You know, we could play your audio. That's
no, it's too late.
Okay. All of the senses of this shark have brought it close to this area, so it knows there's something in the vicinity, but it's at the stage where it needs to use its electroreception to pinpoint exactly where in the sand this stingray might be hiding, because it knows something is here, and now the stingray is like, oh my god, what am I going to do? And it's just trying to hide as well as it can, while the shark is swimming around and trying to use its ampullae of Lorenzini to pinpoint the location. We finish this, guys. I want to know if we're team shark or team stingray. Let me know. Let me know in the chat if we're team shark or team stingray. I'm seeing some people like Omid. He says, avenge Steve Irwin. He definitely wants the shark to get the stingray for Steve. We miss Steve, but the stingray ended up getting him. Too bad. Okay, so we got team shark and we got some team stingray. Jesse is
you should do a poll.
A poll?
Yeah.
Let me do a quick poll while we finish this video.
Or you know what, you should do the poll and then start the video from the beginning and do a poll, like, are you team shark or team stingray?
Okay, guys, let me know in the chat. Are you team shark or are you team stingray? What I always find really fascinating is, like, let me pause that on the spot. Like all these little fish that are swimming around sharks, I always just think that's so cool, because some of it comes down to, like, the fish are so insignificant for some of these sharks, because they don't even want to waste their energy eating these little fish that are around them, that they just kind of let them, like, swim around them.
I was going to ask you about that. Aren't these the fish that have, like, a symbiotic relationship with the sharks, where, like, they basically eat, like, the parasites or the barnacles or whatever that's on the shark, right? So they keep the shark's skin clean, and then in return they basically get, like, free food by cleaning the shark. So
yeah,
it's like one of those cool symbiotic relationships.
Yeah, that's a great point. I don't know if these fish are specifically those kinds. Those are, like, specific sucker fish, but yes, like, those are also kinds of fish that do have that symbiotic relationship with sharks and, like, kind of eat the skin. But sometimes you have small fish that just hang around a shark because they're trying to avoid other smaller predator fish that might want to attack them. So they're almost using the shark as protection sometimes too, because the shark might attack what naturally eats these guys, but the shark doesn't care about these guys
because they're too tiny. So it's not worth the calories to go after the really tiny guys.
It's not worth the effort.
Oh, wow. Okay, interesting. I didn't know that.
Stop poll. Okay, so we have 58% that were team shark and 42% that were team stingray. Well, sorry, team stingray, but the shark got this one. The shark got this one. Finish the job. That's funny.
Wow.
That's very funny.
I mean, I was team shark because I understand, sharks have to eat. And honestly, it's the same for us humans, right? Like, we eat meat, and, in order to eat meat, that means, the animal has to be, of course, killed so that we can eat the meat. But, like, even though I'm team shark, I will never get used to, like, these sorts of videos, right? And, there's always a small part of me that's like, survive. But at the same time, it's like, this is nature, right? Like, in nature, you need to eat in order to survive. So yeah. But the thing is, though, like, what the shark is doing, it's literally eating to survive, right? Like, it's not killing the stingray for the sake of killing the stingray, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think a lot of times, when like in Hollywood or whatever, where they're demonizing sharks or making sharks look evil, it's because they portray the shark as this, like, vicious killing machine that kills for the sake of killing. But like no animals in the animal kingdom do that, that I know of, aside from like humans, basically, right? Like humans are the
Yeah.
only ones that just kind of kill for the sake of killing. But within the animal kingdom, I mean, unless you're talking about cordyceps, like cordyceps are a different, nightmare scenario
I
there.
mean, that's a fungus. That's not an
Yeah,
animal.
the killer mushrooms, right? But just like within the animal ecosystem, animals don't kill unless it's to prey, like unless it's to eat, right? And that's the important distinction. But we humans, we tend to, the word is called anthropomorphize. We tend to anthropomorphize animals, and that basically means that we just inherently put human feelings or intents or emotions on the animal, even though it's not necessarily there, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point. And we can't help feeling this way sometimes, but it's why sometimes videos like this can like bring strong emotions
Yeah.
in people. Like any nature show, really, when like you see like even a lion catching a gazelle sometimes, for example, like you have these feelings, but the shark's got to eat, and there are also times where sharks end up starving and starving to death sometimes
And
because
that's
they're
really
not.
sad.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's also really sad.
and that's why, like, this is going a little bit off topic, but you have so many more gazelle than you have lion, for example, because the gazelle is there for the lion to be able to eat. So very interesting. Okay. So, guys, now we've seen the shark catch prey. We've gone through the sequence of the hunting sequence where it's actually able to locate the prey, find the prey, and catch the prey. Now we get to the actual part that a lot of people think about when they think about sharks, which is the bite. So, when a shark gets to a specific prey, it obviously has like this bite, and shark teeth are pretty incredible. And the thing that we've heard time and time again is that shark teeth can actually, let me ask you guys, what is one common fact that you guys might have heard about shark teeth? Let me know in the chat. Yes, Goldie.
They have numerous rows of teeth, and their teeth fall out constantly during the course of their lifetime.
Yes. That is true. That is true. And, this is a very common fact and might be one of the most well-known facts about shark, and it is correct. But one thing that's very interesting is that by the time a shark is actually using its teeth, the hard part for the shark, which is the hunt, is actually over. So, if a shark needs to use its teeth, it's already detected the prey, it's closed the distance, and it's just really it's the final step in the payoff to get to this part. And so we're going to talk a little bit about shark tooth evolution now. So what's really interesting about shark teeth is that similar to how birds have different kinds of beaks, different kinds of sharks also have different teeth depending on the kind of job that they need to do. So a great white shark, for instance, let me just fix my screen here. So a great white shark, they have these kind of broad, flat, heavily serrated teeth, almost like an oversized steak knife. And this is because great whites often hunt these large prey like seals and sea lions and different kind of large fish. And it needs to be able to cut through dense muscle, thick skin, thick blubber, and all of these serrations in the teeth allow it to slice through tissue a lot more effectively than any kind of smooth edged tooth can.
Someone said in the comments that the teeth have teeth.
Yes,
Like,
the
if
teeth.
you zoom in, the serrated edge, it looks like the tooth has, like, mini teeth on it.
Yeah,
Look
honestly,
at
yeah,
that.
really cool. Next you have the mako shark, which is a little bit different. So mako spend their lives chasing some of the fastest fish in the ocean, like tuna and swordfish. And those fish are streamlined, so they're incredibly slippery and they're built for speed. And so a broad slicing tooth like the one that a great shark has isn't ideal anymore for this specific shark. So instead they kind of have these long, more slender needle-like teeth that are much better at grabbing a hold of fast-moving prey before it can escape. So the mako shark has these kind of long needle-like teeth. And then you have tiger shark. And guys, I haven't showed you my tiger shark prop yet, but this is my little tiger
That's
shark.
so cute.
My little tiger shark.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe you, like, got all these props to get ready for the live
I
stream.
know,
That's
it's so
so
exciting.
cute.
Yeah. So, so tiger sharks, went in a different direction. So they're kind of similar to the great white, but they're curved. So the great white shark it's more like flat and triangular, but the tiger shark has these curved teeth. And part of this reason is because they're actually famous for eating like a lot of different kinds of things in the ocean, basically anything that they can fit into their mouths, whether it's like sea turtles or um, stingrays or different kinds of birds. Their diet is incredibly varied. And so as a result, their teeth almost look like a combination of like a can opener with a saw. So it's thick, it's curved. These teeth also have teeth, so strongly serrated and exceptionally good at cutting through hard shells. For example, like a shell that a sea turtle might have. Next, we have whale sharks. Goldie, have you seen whale sharks before?
I have.
Okay, so you didn't mention whale sharks when I asked you if you've seen a shark before.
You know, I've seen whale sharks down south. I know whale sharks, like, they're friendly. Like, whale sharks, um, don't go after humans. They go after small prey. Yeah, they're kind of like the filter of the ocean in a way.
Yes. So whale sharks, so they're actually the largest fish on Earth. I think they're the largest kind of fish in the ocean.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Um, they are a species of shark. They do have teeth. They have really tiny, tiny teeth, thousands of them, which is kind of funny because they don't actually use them to hunt, but they're, as you mentioned, like they filter feed on things like plankton and things like that. So despite having like a massive mouth, which can be over a meter wide sometimes, those teeth aren't really doing much chomping, and they're really there to kind of hold these small organisms in place. But I wanted to include that just to show the different kinds of teeth that sharks can have. Um, and then you have the nurse shark as well. So nurse sharks are they're not built for chasing down like any sort of fast moving prey in the open ocean. Instead, they spend a lot of their time kind of cruising slowly along the sea floor, searching for things like crabs and lobsters and sea urchins and shells and mollusks and things like that. So their teeth are much smaller and less dramatic than some of the bigger sharks, like the great white and the tiger shark, because they're not actually looking to slice through their prey. Instead, they have these incredibly powerful jaws that generate like this really strong suction, allowing them to literally like vacuum out some of the prey that might be hiding behind these hard shells. So it's a completely different hunting strategy. And once again, like nature has allowed this animal to produce a completely different set of tools to get the job done that it needs to. So very, very interesting in terms of how these different kinds of species have evolved different tools they need to get the job done specific for their purposes. So pretty cool. Do you have a favorite shark, Goldie?
I like the great white shark, the
Mm,
Jaws shark.
yes.
I feel like because a great white shark is like really misunderstood, and I just don't like how like they're always demonized in like the Hollywood movies. But yeah, I really like the great white shark.
I think you should really watch that documentary, Shark Whisperer, with,
Okay.
with Ocean Ramsey that I showed at the beginning of the stream. It's a great documentary just about how misunderstood some of these animals are, specifically tiger sharks and great white sharks. And I think that the documentary does a great effort at demonstrating that. And Ocean herself is amazing. She's, her advocacy has really gone a long way to making a case for great whites in general. And I think it's really cool. Everyone should check it out. So
Yeah, you know what? I just want to say, like, sharks are no different than like lions, for example, or wolves or bears or whatever, right? It's just they're in the water. But, it kind of reminds me of your live stream on the Bermuda Triangle, where the Bermuda Triangle was all of a sudden promoted because of like a book that someone wrote in the 1970s. And I feel like, Jaws kind of did the same thing with the great white shark and just created this narrative that sharks are inherently evil, but sharks are just, and sure, yes, of course, there are shark attacks or whatever. That happens, right? It's like it's no different than someone going out into the savannah or the jungle or wherever and being attacked by a wild animal, right? Like it's the ocean. There are wild animals there. So it's incumbent on us as humans to just be aware of our surroundings so that the sharks don't mistake us for prey.
yeah, that's a great point. That's absolutely true. And like the ocean is their natural habitat. It's definitely not ours. So,
Yeah.
anytime we kind of venture out in those kind of environments, it's it's good.
Although someone mentioned Sharknadoes are the worst, and I agree. Like I do not approve of Sharknadoes. Sharknadoes are evil, and I'm totally against Sharknadoes.
I would not want to be in that situation personally, but we did talk about tornadoes in one stream, and they're also water spouts, which is a
Yeah,
kind of water tornado. So, I mean,
Sharknadoes
theoretically,
are a possibility.
yes. And like small fish do get captured in water spouts sometimes. And so theoretically, if you have a strong enough water spout that's, powerful enough, theoretically it can happen. Not to say it will, but interesting
So
thought.
this week on how to die, right? Going back to the usual theme of how is science going to kill us this week? Now we have confirmation that Sharknadoes are theoretically possible if the water tornado is big enough and powerful enough. Thank you, Rose.
Anytime, Goldie. Anytime. You can always rely on me. Um, okay, I thought this graphic was kind of scary, but like I think it's also kind of cool. But I want to talk more specifically about the regeneration that a few folks mentioned, and like losing teeth and how they could, bring back teeth. I don't know how you feel about dentists, Goldie, but I hate going to the dentist. Like as an adult, losing a tooth or any sort of dental work is stressful. It's annoying.
I
But
like my dentist. She's great.
I like my dentist as a person. I don't like when she does work in my mouth.
I don't know. She just puts anesthetic in my mouth whenever it needs to happen, or I get some laughing gas, and then I'm good. I'm just like, all
Oh,
right.
maybe I need to try the laughing gas next. Maybe that'll make it more fun.
You should come to my dentist. She's really good.
Hook me up. Okay, done. Thankfully, sharks don't really have to worry about dentists. They don't have any of those concerns because they are able to kind of have that regeneration. And behind every functional tooth in a shark's mouth, there are multiple rows of replacement teeth that are kind of awaiting their turn to come out when it's time. And it actually happens quite often in a shark. Sorry, I lost my mouse. Um, so the reason why sharks end up losing teeth quite frequently is because you're essentially biting into struggling prey. So the prey is like thrashing and moving, and the shark is like clamping down as hard as it can. And so eventually, like the tooth ends up getting damaged or broken. And when that happens, the next tooth slowly kind of rotates forward into position and pushes the other tooth out. And some species of shark actually end up replacing teeth every couple of weeks. Some of them might take a little bit longer than that, but over an entire lifetime, a single shark can go through tens of thousands of teeth, which is absolutely insane. And also the reason why, like, sometimes we can find a lot of shark tooth, like on the beach or like washing up shore. And, there's a lot of jewelry that can be made from shark teeth. And it's because sharks end up losing so many over the course of their lifetime. But I want to bring this back to an engineering perspective again, because I can't help but to do that sometimes. But let's just say you're designing a tool that's expected to experience enormous wear and tear. One option to solve that engineering problem is to build like an indestructible tool, which often is either extremely difficult, is extremely expensive, or more often than not, it's impossible to build something that's indestructible. So the secondary option is to actually make that part easily replaceable. So if you have a worn part that's easily replaceable, that's what we do a lot of the times in engineering to make like a plug and play quite easy. This is essentially what nature did for a shark. It built this system that assumes that its teeth are going to fall and break and get damaged, and replaces them continuously over the course of its lifetime, which I think is actually really, really cool. And part of the reason why, over these hundreds of millions of years, it actually is able to become the kind of predator that it is today. One other thing that's just really interesting about a shark's mouth is that a shark doesn't just open its jaws, it's actually able to project its jaw forward. So the mouth,
What?
yeah, yeah. So the mouth doesn't just simply open, but when it's really close to a prey, it's able to, its entire jaw mechanism slides outwards towards its prey, effectively extending the shark's reach at the exact moment where it matters the most. So it might not sound like much, like a couple of inches, but like imagine every time you wanted to reach out and grab something, like your arm grew 6 inches longer, like right at the last second to get to something. But that tiny increase in reach can actually make the entire difference between like catching your meal and missing it completely. So that's
So you're so wait. You are telling me that sharks can do this. Wait, let me share my screen here. Because as soon as you said that, that reminded me of this.
oh my goodness.
So you're telling me sharks project their mouth out of their mouth, and it's like the movie The Alien.
Yeah, actually, yes, I am saying that. That's true. Um, maybe you don't know, but maybe the alien was built based on the the shark. Um,
Okay.
I
Okay.
so sorry. Someone in the chat said something. Okay, so Amir says, show her the goblin shark, Rosie. Okay, so I want to show you.
Oh no.
Okay, let me see if I can find a good picture. Okay, so I'll show you two different pictures. One is just okay, so this is just our goblin shark.
Okay, that's kind of cute. The little nose. Look at that. Pointy nose. It looks like Pinocchio.
Kind of. But then sometimes like they can like do this weird thing.
Oh no. Oh my god, what is that?
Yeah, they like their jaw just kind of comes out like that. I know. Kind of. Is it still cute for you?
No, that is not cute.
And then you have
If I saw that, I would just nope. Yeah, nope. Nope. I would be like, nope. Nope. I am leaving.
you know what you should say when you see a shark like this? You should get out your wand and say Ampullite of Lorenzini.
Oh my gosh.
Fun.
That was definitely scary.
Thanks for the suggestion, Amir. You know, there are some species of shark that are more cute than others. Goblin sharks might be a bit iffy on that one. But okay, so we've talked about how a shark is actually able to do its hunting sequence, locate a prey, and then we talked about its bite and its incredible teeth. But hunting and catching food is actually half the battle. The other half is staying alive long enough after it eats its meal to actually catch the next meal. So surviving just beyond being the perfect predator. You also need to be able to survive. And some of the adaptations that we're going to talk about next are not actually about hunting at all. They're about solving everyday engineering problems that every shark actually faces from the moment it's born, from the day that it dies. And so the first piece that I'm going to talk about is I briefly mentioned this at the beginning, but something that almost might sound too obvious to ask, which is why doesn't a shark sink? Gravity is pulling on them just like it's pulling on us. Water doesn't magically cancel out gravity, it simply produces buoyancy. So if a shark is denser than the water around it, it should slowly sink towards the bottom. And so most fish solve this problem by having an organ called a swim bladder, which is essentially an internal gas-filled sac that they can inflate or deflate inside their body to control their level of buoyancy. So let me share this diagram. Your alien picture is so funny.
The shark goblin shark picture was much more terrifying.
So you can see here, like a lot of bony fish have this swim bladder over here. And they're able to control their buoyancy. If they want to rise in the water, they add more gas. If they want to sink, they release some of that. And it's actually a really elegant solution for most fish. Sharks don't actually have a swim bladder. And the reason is because sharks evolved long before most modern fish and branched off very early in the vertebrate evolution. And so they never actually evolved to have a swim bladder. So nature had to solve this buoyancy problem in an entirely different way. And so instead of using gas, the sharks actually use a combination of different solutions. The first one being that they have a very, very large liver. So depending on the species of shark that we're talking about, a shark's liver can actually account for 20 to 30% of its entire body weight, which is actually a lot. So like imagine like 30% of your body was just your liver. That specific liver in a shark is packed with oils, particularly this compound called squalene. And so oil, because it's less dense than water, it's able to provide this buoyancy. So by having this massive liver, oil-filled liver, it's able to kind of counteract this sinking problem. The other element is the pectoral fins, which we also spoke about previously, which are generating that lift, kind of similar to an airplane's wings, which allow it to, in combination with the liver, not be able to sink.
So this is totally from my live stream chat because those of our viewers who are here from Iran Revolution Live on the school class field trip, I actually taught them jigaret bokhoram. So yeah,
Yeah,
so
it's an endearing term that
yeah,
we use in Iranian.
in Persian, yeah,
In
we say
Persian.
like when you love someone or like it's an endearing term, you're like, oh my gosh, jigaret bokhoram. It's like I'll eat your liver, but it's meant to be like an endearing thing. But I don't know why we say that, but we do.
We're just so poetic when it comes to describing our passion that, it's like 0 to 100 for us,
It
honestly.
is.
It's 0 to 100. So, yes, we'll eat your liver. But yeah, so this is essentially why sharks don't sink, because they're big fatty liver and they're beautiful, beautiful pectoral fins. Next, I want to talk about their skin, which is actually really, really interesting. Tell me in the chat, guys, what do you think a shark's skin feels like? Goldie, what do you think it
I already know what it feels like.
Oh, do you? Okay.
I mean, I could tell you, but if you want the answer from the chat, I won't say it. But
Well, I want the answer from the chat, but I mean, I also want to know what you think. But we'll see what people.
well, a shark's skin is very smooth because they don't have scales.
Okay. So someone says sandpaper.
Sandpaper? Am I
Juan
wrong?
says sandpaper. Daniel says leather. Okay. Jono says sandpaper. Newton says sandpaper. Okay, a lot of people are saying sandpaper. Someone is saying rough. Okay, this is different from your answer, Goldie.
Okay, I'm probably wrong.
Fatal Demon says rubber. TFDX says it feels like rubber, maybe. Oh my God, is that a Clippy? That's so funny. Hi, Clippy. Okay. So what's interesting is that, well, I mean, I have to say we have a very smart chat. We have.
So I was wrong. Oh no.
Okay, you're not fully wrong. You're not fully wrong. If you rubbed your hand from head to tail, it would feel fairly smooth. But if you rubbed it the other way, it would almost feel like sandpaper. So it's really directional, and it depends on the direction of how you're actually touching the shark. So Taha says feels like a shark. Yes, you are right. And so there's actually a reason behind this. And it's because shark skin isn't really skin in the way we think of it. It's actually covered in these millions of microscopic structures called dermal denticles.
So teeth. The shark skin is made of teeth.
Yeah.
Denticle just means teeth.
Denticle literally means little teeth. And it's essentially what their skin is made of. So there's these tiny little tooth-like scales that are covering almost its entire body. And if you looked at one under a microscope, you would see these like incredibly intricate ridges that are running along its surface. And if you touch it one way, it'll feel smooth, but if you go in the opposite direction, it'll feel kind of rough like that. And for a long time, scientists actually thought that the denticles were just another protective layer and armor for the shark, and they are protective, but these structures are also affecting how the water itself is flowing over the shark. And so those tiny ridges are actually helping with the aerodynamic elements of the shark, and help kind of organize the flow of water over the body of the shark, reducing different kinds of, turbulences that you might see in water and reducing the drag that it's also experiencing. So it reduces drag for faster, more efficient swimming. And it's also a beautiful protective armor that helps prevent scratches and like different kinds of parasites that might also want to live
like cordyceps.
Like cordyceps, there you go. The dermal denticles help it from cordyceps. So yeah, really, really cool. They're I believe they're microscopic, so I don't know if we can kind of see them with our naked eye, but under a microscope, you can kind of see these tiny, tiny little teeth, which is really cool.
Wow.
I know, fascinating. Next, I want to talk about age, because sharks don't just survive for a few years. There are some species of shark, and I think I saw someone in the chat talk about this. There are some species of shark that could actually survive for a few centuries. Specifically, there's the Greenland shark. So the Greenland shark aren't fast. They're not flashy. They might not be like super scary looking, but they actually might be one of the longest lived vertebrates on Earth. And there are some scientists that estimate some Greenland sharks can live well over 300 years, with some estimates reaching over 500 years, which is really, really cool. There are Greenland sharks swimming through the Arctic Ocean today that might have been alive before a lot of the modern day living that we have today. So before modern countries have existed, before modern day science, before modern anything. Like, think, where were we 500 plus years ago? They're living.
So you're telling me that there are some sharks that are alive right now who were alive before Canada was a country, or America was a country, or even before Christopher Columbus discovered America.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. And I think part of the reason is that they're living so slowly. They're very slow. They're living in the cold, deep waters of the Arctic, that almost every aspect of their biology is operating at a different pace. So we're going to watch a quick little video about the Greenland shark, just because they're so ancient, and I think it's important for us to learn a bit about them. This video does have audio.
Researchers have found an ancient shark in the North Atlantic, believed to be 512 years old, which could be the oldest living vertebrate in the world. Greenland sharks are relatively ugly and bizarre-looking creatures. It has a
I don't think it's ugly.
I was just gonna say, I don't think they're that ugly. I mean, that's relative.
They're so cute. Look at it.
They're beautiful in their own way. Sorry, who made this video? Let me see. Wonderworld, do better.
long, thick grey body, and its small head consists of a short, rounded snout, with ghostly eyes and an ever-gaping mouth. The species is often plagued by worm-like parasites that latch onto their eyes.
Cute.
Marine biologist Julius Nielsen and his team have been studying an 18-foot Greenland shark. They believe it's at least 272 years old, and possibly as old as 512 years. Greenland sharks have been known to live for hundreds of years and spend most of their lives swimming around looking for a mate. But the recent research proves
Guys, the Greenland shark, as the guy said, swim hundreds of years looking for a mate. So, if you have trouble finding a mate, it's nowhere near as bad as the Greenland shark. Well, everything is about perspective. Everything is about perspective.
I don't feel so bad anymore.
Yeah, it's fine.
of years. Greenland sharks have been known to live for hundreds of years and spend most of their lives swimming around looking for a mate. But the recent research proves that this species of shark could live to be even older. Researchers are looking into how Greenland sharks' long life genes could shed light on what determines life expectancy in different species, including humans. So how did this shark reach this age? Well, Greenland sharks are found in the deep water of the Atlantic Ocean, from Canada to Norway. The answer likely has to do with a very slow metabolism and the cold waters that they inhabit. The method to discover the age of the animal was determined last year. Researchers found a way to predict age by analysing the lens and cornea of the eye, which they believe links size with age. Greenland sharks, also known as gurry sharks or grey sharks, grow at a rate of 1 centimetre a year, enabling scientists to determine their age by measuring their size. This particular shark was measured at 18 feet in length and weighed over a ton. By measuring the size of the shark, researchers suggest the animal could have been born as early as 1505, making
1505. That's wild.
it even older than Shakespeare. With an estimated age of 512 years old, that makes this creature extraordinary, and it should be considered among the absolute oldest animals in the world. I'm going to put a list of historical events that happened over the last 512 years in the Show More section of this video that this shark was alive for. Saying an age of 512 years old does not really sink in until you realise it was alive when European settlers arrived on the American mainland of Panama in 1508. Anyway, that's the end of this video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Wow.
Super cool. Yeah, I wanted to give a little shout out to the Greenland shark, given how it's one of the oldest, and very interesting, very cool. So the last species that I want to talk about is the megalodon. Goldie, what do you know about the megalodon?
I don't know, but I heard a lot of people, or I saw a lot of people in the chat talking about the Meg, and I didn't want to look it up. I'm just assuming the megalodon is like, I don't know, some sort of giant ancient shark from like prehistoric times.
Yes, you are absolutely right. So
there you go. I mean, well, just the name, like megalodon, right? Like it sounds like the biggest shark in the world, right? Like the shark, like the T-Rex. You know how the T-Rex is like the biggest or whatever of the dinosaurs. So I'm assuming the megalodon is like the T-Rex version of the sharks.
Yeah, absolutely. And even like the name sounds old. Like I feel like we don't really name things today like this, but
megalodon, yeah.
Something about the name just makes it feel and sound very ancient. But so, up till now tonight, we've talked about all of these different incredible adaptations that have been stacking together over hundreds of millions of years to make sharks what they are today, whether it's better movement, better senses, better ways of catching prey, better ways of surviving overall. And after hearing all of that, sometimes you might wonder, well, what if that just keeps going? Is nature going to stop at one point, or are sharks going to continue to evolve to be even, grander and greater? If these adaptations continue to accumulate over, more millions and millions of years, do you eventually end up with the biggest, most powerful predator ever imaginable? And the answer is that yes, at one point in Earth's history, we did have this, and that's where the megalodon comes into play. Now, I think the megalodon has almost become a victim of its own popularity because it's been in documentaries and movies and video games, and because of that, sometimes it's easy to forget that this isn't just actually a movie monster. This was a real animal. It did exist, and it was one of the most formidable predators that our planet has ever produced. Based on some of the evidence that we have today, the largest megalodons were probably around 18 to 20 meters, which is roughly 60 to 65 feet. And I'm going to put this into perspective for you. So to put this into perspective, 60 to 65 feet is about the length of 3 to 4 average great white sharks swimming nose to tail. It could also be roughly the size of a bowling alley. That's roughly 60 to 65 feet. I always find it helpful to see it beside something similar. So I think this chart does, a good representation of what it kind of could look like between a regular great white shark, a human, a school bus, for instance. Now, this is actually like absolutely massive, but we actually know far less about megalodons than what we would like, and this is because sharks, as I mentioned, don't have bones similar to other vertebrate animals. So they leave behind a very frustrating fossil record. Because of that cartilage, like the cartilage doesn't fossilize very well. So unlike dinosaurs, where sometimes we discover, spectacular skeletons, sharks usually only leave behind teeth. And so fortunately for paleontologists, sharks lose teeth constantly, as we spoke about. And so the megalodon was also no exception to that. So what we don't have, and unfortunately, are these like beautifully preserved complete skeletons of the megalodons. So how have scientists been able to estimate the size of what a megalodon looked like? And the way that they did this was actually to compare the fossils of their teeth with living sharks today. So they looked at how the size of their tooth related to the size of its body, and using modern species and studying vertebrates and using different computer simulations and models, they were able to combine all of that evidence to formulate this best possible guess, which is around 50 to 60 feet. Which I think is very interesting. Oh my God, I just saw this comment from Soapbox. How many kids from our class field trip school bus could it follow? Well, Soapbox, I have to say, we're not in a school bus. We are in a magic school plane. And so the magic school plane, it could swallow it whole, but you know what? It's magic. We'll find our way out. We'll be safe. Don't worry. Stick with me, kids, and we'll be fine. So, but no, in all seriousness, like it wouldn't be able to swallow a Q400. But I have our final video for tonight, which I want to play. It's about the megalodon, and will also give me a bit of a speaking break while I drink some water and we watch this video about the Meg. So this is called Why Megalodon Definitely Went Extinct.
About 8 million years ago, a little baleen whale was swimming in the warm coastal waters of Peru. It was only about 3 or 4 meters long, about the size of a beluga whale, and while it filtered mouthfuls of plankton-rich water, it was unaware that just below it swam a predator. Like the great white sharks of our time, this predator likely hunted whales from below or behind, in case its prey was capable of echolocation. It turns out that this little whale, known as Piscobalaena, didn't have that ability, but for the hunter, the element of surprise was enough. It swam up for the attack, and that was that for Piscobalaena. We know who the predator was because it left a tooth in the whale's body, which eventually fossilized. It usually goes by its species name, Megalodon, and it was the largest shark that ever lived. At up to 18 meters, it was almost 3/4 of the size of a modern blue whale. Its teeth were as big as your hand or bigger, and its jaws were wide enough to swallow you whole. Megalodon lived all over the world, from the Netherlands to New Zealand. And for more than 10 million years, it was at the top of its game as the ocean's apex predator, until 2.6 million years ago when it went extinct. Yes, really, Don't let Hollywood convince you otherwise. I know you're smarter than that. Megalodon disappeared entirely from the fossil record, just as the Pliocene gave way to the Pleistocene. And there's also proof of its extinction in the composition of marine life that we find today, especially in the kinds and sizes of whales that swim in our modern oceans. So what happened to the largest shark in history? Well, it turns out that while Megalodon may have been the biggest shark that ever swam, it would eventually be defeated by the greatest. Megalodon was the biggest, scariest shark in a family of big, scary sharks. It belongs to the diverse order of sharks known as lamniforms, which today includes sand tigers, goblins, threshers, and the great white. And when Megalodon was first described in 1835, scientists thought that its big, serrated, blade-like teeth looked so much like those of the great white that Megalodon was originally placed in the same family. But today, based on features around the base of its massive teeth, most experts think that it was probably in a separate family whose members are all now extinct, called Otodontidae, also known as the mega-toothed sharks. Now, one of the oldest and smallest of the group of megatooths that gave rise to Megalodon was a shark known as Otodus obliquus, which lived in the early Eocene nearly 20 million years before Megalodon appeared on the scene. And some scientists think that Megalodon belonged to this same genus, Otodus, while others assign it to another genus of extinct sharks called Carcharocles. Either way, Megalodon was the largest of all the megatooths, first showing up in the fossil record about 23 million years ago. So how and why did it get so huge? Well, Megalodon's massive size was linked to the size of its prey, and both were shaped by forces much bigger than themselves. These external forces began at the end of the Mesozoic, when plate tectonics caused the uplift of mountains in North America and Asia. The weathering of these growing mountain ranges pumped massive amounts of nutrient-rich sediment into the oceans, increasing the productivity of ecosystems near the shore. And as the algae and plants grew, so did the Megalodon's preferred food group, marine mammals. Marine mammals like whales, dolphins, and seals all have pretty high fat contents, making them a nutritious, high-calorie snack for any predator that can catch them. And as the marine mammals grew over time, so did the sharks. Over the course of about
So I just want to say that what I find really interesting about this part is that the shark is essentially responding to whatever food is available. So as whales gradually evolved into larger animals, the predators capable of hunting them also got larger. So it was very cohesive in that way. So it was almost like a race in a way. So like,
well, it's because as the whales got larger, only the larger versions of the predators would survive. So the larger ones naturally were able to eat the whales and then, keep on like becoming larger in a way through the genetic, mutations or whatever.
exactly, yeah.
Okay, wow.
20
It's kind of like
million
how
years,
dogs became, it's kind of like how wolves became dogs, right? It was through those genetic mutations. It's the same sort of thing here.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, if you want to learn about how wolves became dogs, watch our live stream on how wolves became dogs.
mammals grew over time, so did the sharks. Over the course of about 20 million years, marine mammals and the line of megatooth sharks that led to Megalodon both doubled in size. And Megalodon in particular started to grow too, fast. Fossils of newborn Megalodon found in places like Panama show that they were about 2 to 3 meters long, half the size of a modern great white shark, and about 1.5 times as large as their ancestor Otodus obliquus. And these massive baby sharks grew like weeds. We know this because shark vertebrae show rings of their growth just like tree rings. And these rings show that Megalodon babies grew almost twice as quickly as Otodus obliquus, reaching their maximum length at around 25 years old. So getting bigger over time and then getting bigger faster probably helped Megalodon keep up in the ongoing size race with the marine mammals they hunted. And hunt it most certainly did. Its teeth have been found stuck in the ribs of many unidentified whale species, as well as tiny Piscobalaena, and even a pinniped about the size of a sea lion. So size was a very useful adaptation for the giant sharks. Until it wasn't. Because 2.6 million years ago, Megalodon disappeared. And there are a couple of potential reasons for this. For one thing, 2.6 million years ago marked the beginning of the Pleistocene, when cooler temperatures and long periods of glaciation began to set in, also known as the Ice Ages. This change in temperature could have affected Megalodon directly, or it could have impacted its food source. That's because the change in climate led to a restructuring of how and where whales lived. As the climate shifted, more productive environments with more food began to take shape closer to the poles, so whales started to spend a lot more time there and became more migratory. So maybe the problem for Megalodon was that its prey started moving to where the water was colder, too cold perhaps for Megalodon to follow. For a long time, scientists thought that this might have been what did in the world's biggest shark. But in 2016, a group of researchers led by Dr. Catalina Pimiento decided to test that hypothesis. Specifically, they tested the assumption that Megalodon couldn't live in cold water. Pimiento and her team used a climate forecasting model to recreate ocean temperatures during the Pliocene and Miocene, and compared those temperatures to where Megalodon had lived. They found that while the shark preferred water from about 12 to 27 degrees Celsius, its fossils were still found in places where the water was as cold as 1 degree. So Megalodon probably was okay with colder water, which makes sense because many large sharks today are mesothermic.
So I just want to mention that I really like this part because it's a great example of science almost changing its mind. So first they thought because, the oceans got colder, Megalodon couldn't survive. But when researchers actually were doing testing behind that idea, they realized that there might actually be something else going on here. And like we've spoken about this before, this is really what science is all about. It's about, you come up with the best possible explanation of something with all of the evidence that you might have at the time, but it doesn't mean that that particular finding is always going to be correct. Similar to how Pluto got declassified from being a planet to a dwarf planet because of at one time there was a specific set of evidence that defined Pluto to be a planet, but after more research and more evidence and more findings and different definitions, it was classified as being something else. And that's really essentially what science is all about. Pluto was robbed. I know. Make Pluto a planet again.
Can keep their bodies a little warmer than the surrounding water temperature, which helps them stay active even in colder waters. So if changes to the whale's movement and habitats wasn't the problem, then what was? Well, the disappearance of Megalodon seems to coincide with two big important changes in the animal kingdom. The first was the appearance of new predators that Megalodon had to compete with. For example, starting around the middle of the Miocene, we find the giant sperm whale with the epic name of Leviathan melvillei, named for none other than the author of Moby Dick. But unlike the suction-feeding sperm whales of our time, Leviathan had short, powerful jaws, and its teeth were big, strong, and meant for biting into flesh. Also, at 17 meters long, Leviathan wasn't just snacking on squid, it was eating other whales. And it was only one of many species of carnivorous whales in the Middle Miocene. In the Late Miocene, another adversary shows up in the fossil record, the earliest ancestor of the great white shark, Carcharodon habeli. This shark was a direct competitor with Megalodon, as proven by its tooth marks that have been found in fossils of the same whale species that we know Megalodon ate, namely that little Piscobalina. Then a few million years later, in the early Pliocene, the first fossils appear of the modern great white, Carcharodon carcharius. Now, in addition to having to compete with newer, more nimble sharks like these, some of Megalodon's most important prey, namely whales, were on the decline. Toward the end of the Pliocene, the number of whales dramatically decreased from about 60 whale species to about 40. Many of these species were filter feeders and fed on krill and other organisms, which in turn ate microscopic algae called diatoms. And starting around 3 million years ago, the oceans began to experience a serious drop in diatom diversity. It's not 100% clear why this happened, but it might relate to changes in ocean circulation that took place when North and South America finally came together, and water could no longer circulate between the Pacific and the Atlantic. Regardless of the reasons, fewer diatoms meant fewer krill, which in turn meant fewer whales, and with less food, Megalodon had to compete even harder with the smaller and faster great white shark. Being bigger is great if it gives you the advantage of having access to a different food group, but when it no longer does, it means you're just bulkier and require more food to survive. Which is why 2.6 million years ago, the very last of the megalodon disappeared from the fossil record.
Yeah, so what's really interesting here is that this is where being gigantic all of a sudden became a disadvantage for the megalodon. And like when we think about very large animals, sometimes we might assume that bigger animals might automatically dominate a particular ecosystem, but every extra pound of body mass needs energy and needs food. And if food becomes scarce, then the biggest predators are typically one of the first to struggle. And this is what's happening with the megalodon.
And the absence of the megalodon may have had a big impact on the world's oceans. In the past couple million years, great white sharks and orcas have taken over the roles of apex predator. But these much smaller carnivores couldn't hunt the larger whales that megalodon was likely able to eat. For instance, we know that modern great whites frequently eat dolphins half their size, so it's possible that an 18-meter megalodon was eating whales that were as big as 9 meters, much too big for other predators to handle. And after megalodon went extinct, the size of whales exploded. During the Pleistocene, the waters grew colder, and the new and improved productivity at the poles meant diatoms bounced back.
Caleb is asking, do I have a favorite type of shark? Honestly, I like the great whites. I think they're really cool, similar to Goldie. I think they're fascinating. I think they're scary. I think they're smart, really interesting. So I would say they're my favorite. Yes, Goldie.
So where's the part within your live stream where we talk about the loan sharks or the pool sharks?
Right now, floor is yours. Go ahead. What do you have to say about loan sharks?
I don't know. I was asking you. You're the shark expert.
Well, loan sharks, I've thankfully never had to deal with them, but I've heard they're very, very vicious and, very predatory and can be found on land sometimes. So, you got to be careful.
There you go.
Thanks for the question, Goldie.
And this newly productive environment, along with the absence of large predators, meant that the whales were able to become twice as big as the biggest whales of the Pliocene. This is why the blue whale, the largest animal our planet has ever seen, appeared in the fossil record only recently, less than 2 million years ago. Without 18-meter sharks swimming around, the oceans could finally host 25-meter whales. So Megalodon and its ancestors had a great run. Over 30 million years, they became larger in order to eat larger marine mammals. But when those mammals started to disappear and when competition with great white sharks and other predators became too fierce, Megalodon didn't make the evolutionary cut. But it's worth noting that the biggest great white sharks of today are about 1 meter longer than their ancestors were in the Miocene, and they grow a little faster when they're young too, just like Megalodon did. It took nearly 30 million years for the megatooth sharks to reach the enormous size of Megalodon, a slow transformation that took place as whales and other marine mammals slowly grew in size. But whales today are already enormous and face very few predators, which leaves the niche of super shark wide open. So it just might be that the great white shark could become the Megalodon of the future, and that giant sharks might patrol our oceans once again.
Cool. So, yeah, that's about the megalodon, Goldie. Fascinating stuff, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm kind of glad it doesn't exist today, but some people say that maybe it exists today. There's no evidence that it exists today, but the ocean is vast, the ocean is deep, the ocean is large. You never know. So there's one final thing I want to talk about before we wrap up and go to the Q&As. But it's honestly maybe a question that people normally think when they think about sharks, and it's, should we actually be afraid of sharks? And I think the honest answer is that, yes, but probably not in the way that most people think, because sharks at the end of the day are wild animals. They're powerful, they're capable predators. They deserve our respect, just like a bear deserves your respect if you're hiking through the woods. I would never encourage anyone to be careless around sharks. And I certainly wouldn't suggest swimming up to one because, you watch this live stream where we watched like a professional swimming with sharks either. But respect and fear aren't the same thing. When we hear about a shark bite, it typically makes international headlines. It gets shared all over social media. There's news helicopters flying overhead on beaches. The beaches are closed. And for a few days, it might feel like, sharks are everywhere. But, our brains are sometimes really bad at judging risk. We're wired to remember these dramatic emotional events. And it's one of the reasons why shark attacks sometimes feel much more common than they actually are. Let me know in the chat, guys, what do you think is the number of fatal shark attacks every year? Annually, on average. Okay, Daniel says 2. Minor Dine says 15. Caleb says 5 to 15. Checkmate says 2. Mark says 5. Okay, guys, you guys are all very, very close. Goldie, what do you think it is?
I don't have a number, but I would say that it's probably much less than the number of fatalities in car accidents, let's say, or the number of fatalities from humans. So I would say probably somewhere I would say less than 10 a year.
Well, I'm so glad that you brought up the car fatality thing.
Oh, is that the example you're going to use?
Well, I have
oh my God, we're vibing. It's almost like it's it's kind of like we're related, right?
Oh my God, but I'm adopted though, so we're not. But it could almost be like we are almost.
We'll pretend.
Okay, so let's zoom out a bit and look at some of these numbers. In a typical year, fatal shark attacks worldwide are in the single digits. So it could be up to 10. There are years where you can count when you can count all of them on one hand, like you don't even need both hands. Meanwhile, we have millions of people that swim every year, that dive, surf, go in the ocean, and enjoy the ocean every single day. It obviously doesn't mean that shark attacks never happen. They absolutely do. And when they do, it's devastating for everyone involved. But statistically speaking, they are incredibly rare. And I think that's a very important distinction because something can be very serious without being very common. The other side of the story is that, is one that doesn't get much attention, which is we spend a lot of time asking how sharks are dangerous to us, but we almost never ask how dangerous we are to sharks. And depending on the estimate, humans actually kill somewhere in the neighborhood of 100 million sharks every single year through fishing.
That's insane. And I'm thinking of shark fin soup, for example, which I think is absolutely horrible, right? Because they murder a shark just for the fin, and then the rest of it is just discarded. So we are way more dangerous to sharks than they are to us.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And you hit the nail on the head. Shark fin trade, bycatch, regular fishing, 100 million sharks every year. Compared to fewer than 10 fatal shark attacks on a human every typical year. So it's not even remotely close.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean that sharks are harmless, and it doesn't mean that every species of shark is threatened, but it does remind us that perspective actually matters here. For a really, really long time, we've told stories about how sharks are the villains, and in reality, many shark populations are actually under significant pressure from all of this overfishing and habitat loss, and some species have declined dramatically over the past few decades. And because many sharks grow slowly and don't reproduce in these large numbers, recovering some of those populations can actually take a very, very long time. And ironically, after everything we've talked about tonight, all of their incredible adaptations, their evolutionary success, their ability to have survived for over 450 million years, the biggest challenge sharks actually face today is us. It's humans. And, you know, it's actually kind of sad when you think about it that way, but hopefully, you know, I hope that's the biggest takeaway that people take from tonight. The more I learn about sharks, the less I see them as like these big monsters. They're definitely creatures that should be respected. And instead I like see them as these extraordinary examples of what evolution can accomplish when you actually give it enough time. They're not perfect, they're not invincible, but you know, they're certainly not killing machines. They're just these incredible, fascinating, well-adapted animals that have been solving challenges in the oceans for almost 500 million years, which I think is absolutely fascinating. And as you can see from this diagram, like mosquitoes through disease kill more humans every year than sharks. So
I hate mosquitoes.
yeah,
I'm putting it out there. I don't care if you do a live stream talking about the benefits of mosquitoes. I don't care. I hate mosquitoes. I'm allergic to mosquitoes. I literally still have like my mosquito bite from like a week ago because whenever a mosquito bites me, I get like a rash. So I hate mosquitoes. I hate mosquitoes.
yeah.
I know they're part of the food chain and they feed birds and whatever, but I hate them.
Oh, this is going to be really gross. Actually, maybe I shouldn't say it. There's like, okay, I'll say it. There's a specific dish that like is made out of mosquitoes. It's like mosquito patty.
What?
I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay. We don't need to talk about that. But
Wait, which country? So that I never visit this country.
Oh, I don't know if we should talk about it online.
Wait.
You know, I don't want to give any disrespect towards anyone, but mosquito patties. Look it up.
Oh my God! It's
yeah.
Okay.
Anyway,
yeah. Wow. All right. Okay. Yeah. I'm not going to mention which country it's from. Oh my God.
You know, if you're curious, just Google it, guys. Just Google it.
Guys, I can tell you right now, do not look up mosquito burger on Google. Do not do that.
You know, at the end of the day, it has protein. Sometimes protein is it's more scarce in some environments, and you got to do what you got to do. Like, I think if there was a luxury of having other options, you know, it wouldn't be resorting to mosquito patties, but sometimes, you know, it's about survival. Anyways, I don't want to talk about that. That's not the point of tonight. That's really what I had about sharks tonight, guys. I hope this was helpful. I hope it was useful. I hope you guys learned about, you know, interesting things about sharks. Hopefully you can look at sharks a little bit differently. I'm going to get to super chats in a second, but I did do like a YouTube poll earlier today. It's my first time. I usually do the polls on StreamYard through the live chat. But I did like a YouTube poll, and I'm not sure how it works. I'm going to end it now. So my question was, okay, you guys might see it in the chat, but my question was, you're in the ocean and spot a shark nearby. What's your first move? Number 1 is to stay calm and keep watching it. Number 2 is prepare to punch it in the nose. Number 3 is accept that this was a bad swim. And number 4 is swim away as fast as possible. So yeah, the answer is actually the first one, stay calm and keep watching it. So if you're in the open water and you see a shark swimming by, just stay calm, keep watching it. Don't do anything drastic. You don't want to start flailing around and start swimming fast, away, because it might think that you're a prey and it might want to come get you. The punching in the nose is also typically a misconception. Like maybe worst case, if it starts charging at you, you might want to punch it in the face to kind of help that situation, but you don't want that to be your first move. So you don't want to swim towards the shark and punch it in the nose. If it comes towards you, sure, you have to defend yourself, but the immediate thing you want to do if you see a shark nearby and it's not really coming towards you is to just stay calm and watch it and try to keep your distance, maybe an arm's length as much as you can. But I feel like if I saw a shark in the water, Goldie, like I'm gonna try to remember this fact, but I might just freak out. I'm gonna hope I don't, but I might just be like.
Well, what's interesting, Rose? Can you pull up the graphic you made with the shark like predator thing, which shows like the prey for each shark?
Oh, that was the teeth diagram. Yes.
No, I don't know if it was, the teeth diagram where it shows like which prey like the various sharks eat. One thing I noticed, and I wanted to comment on this and then I forgot because I got distracted by shark teeth. But if you notice, even in the diagram, all of their prey is pretty small, right? So for example, even like the great white shark, the biggest prey for them is like seals and sea lions. So humans, like we're bigger than most seals and sea lions. So I feel like if we're splashing around when a shark comes close, that's probably because we might be behaving the way a seal or a sea lion might behave. And so the shark will then mistake us for its regular prey because, we humans.
So true, Monodine. So true.
That's true. But the thing is, like, we are not part of the ecosystem. Like, we're not part of the shark's ecosystem, right? So it doesn't know what we are. So if the shark is coming up to us, it's more curious than anything else. So that's why with the advice, in the poll, like if you remain still, you have a better likelihood of surviving than if you start flailing around and acting like a seal or sea lion or something.
Yeah. So I do want to just correct one thing. Seals and sea lions are actually quite large. So adult seals can get up to 6 feet long, and like they're obviously a lot fatter than humans. And then sea lions, I think, can get up to like 11 feet. So they're actually no, but you're not fully wrong. So they are quite big. But what causes sometimes a lot of these shark attacks is surfers because of their surfboards. So the surfboard.
Oh, it looks like the underbelly of a.
Exactly. Yeah. So
we saw seals, and the seals are very humble. They're very humble.
Yeah. Which means chubby. Like they're very rotund. They're very chubby. They're round. They're blubbery. They're quite large, and fully grown 6 feet, I think, for seals, and then sea lions can even be bigger than that, especially like the males, up to like 11 feet. And so the shape of a surfboard can mimic very closely what I was going to say lion, what a shark thinks is a seal or a sea lion. So they might be charging and swimming towards a diver with a surfboard, thinking that that's actually, maybe a seal or a sea lion, but it's actually like a surfboard. And then there's the human that's like thrashing around, and then it goes for the human. So that's how most of those attacks happen. And a lot of the times for surfers, because of their surfboard and the way that that's shaped.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, I lost Goldie. Hi. Okay, so Q&A time. Thank you all for your super chats, questions, comments. So I'll be going through those now before we wrap up for this evening.
Rose, I also start a couple or just a few comments from your members. So not necessarily super chats, but some of your channel members also had questions, and so I add like a few that caught my eye. I added them sort of in between the super chats as sort of one of the advantages of being a member of your channel as well. So one of the channel member bonuses is you might have your question be featured in the live stream.
I appreciate that, Goldie. Thank you for starring those and keeping your eye on the chat as we went through the stream. Okay, so first comment is from Tread, who says, Jaws as a kid messed me up for life. I feel like that goes for a lot of people. I was talking to Laura before the stream started earlier today, and she mentioned the same thing, how, like Jaws, even like the theme, like dana, 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 like, it rattles people to the core and like gives people nightmares. And I think it ended up giving them a bad rap that kind of stayed through the generations. And they are definitely, dangerous animals, but, maybe it's time to look at them a little bit differently. Thanks for the comment, Tread. Next up, we have Atki, who gifted 10 Gamma Ray Report memberships. Thank you so much, Atki. Welcome, Gamma Rangers, to the squad. There are some fun perks. And yeah, stick around, and it's lovely to have you. Enjoy the fun badges and emojis, hopefully. And thank you so much, Atki, for the channel membership. Next, we have Tulsi, who says teeth are a shark's only bones. Yeah, and that's essentially exactly right, and why their teeth are one of the only remnants that kind of are left behind after a shark passes. So their teeth is what can become fossilized and kind of stick around for a long time. So their teeth are actually made up of something called... oh gosh, what was it? Let me look it up real quick.
Denticles.
Well, I don't know. I think it's something similar. Let me look this up. So it was dentine. Okay. So it was actually called dentine, which you weren't too far off, which is kind of that tough material.
Isn't that the gum?
Is it? I don't know. Maybe.
Isn't there like a brand of gum called like Dentine or something?
Maybe. Why don't you call your dentist and ask her, since she's so amazing?
No. There's literally a type of gum called Dentine. I'm not even joking. Yes. Look at this. I'm pulling it up now. Oh my gosh. Look at this.
Oh. Well, there you go. But this is not spelled with a Y. It's spelled with an I.
Oh, okay. All right.
Close enough. But Dentine, sponsor this show. But yeah, so it's basically their teeth is made up of dentine, which is like this tough material that gives the tooth its strength. And then they also have enamel similar to how we have enamel as well. So yeah, everything else is mostly essentially made of cartilage. Thank you for the question, Tulsi. Next we have Tread again, who says, not all orca groups know how to hunt sharks. Ooh, that's very interesting. I think I would love to learn more about orcas in general, because I know a lot of people, I think, are team orca versus team shark. And even when I was just doing some prep for the stream and people were talking about it leading up to it, a lot of people were like, orcas are actually like the greatest predators. And that's not wrong. That's not wrong. It's just a different way to maybe answer the same question. But yeah, I would love to learn more about orcas. Actually, orcas are I think they're a species of dolphin, Goldie. They're like a really smart species of dolphin, which is very interesting as well. But as
orcas are like the true apex predator. Like nothing hunts orcas except for like humans, right? But when it comes to like, I think like the food chain, orcas are at the top. Like they hunt seals and sharks and dolphins and other whales and stuff, right? So orcas are at the top. Yeah. And they're very, very smart too.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very interesting. I think there obviously are very few animals that can hunt great white sharks. I don't necessarily I don't know. I need to look this up. Let me know, chat. But I don't necessarily know how often you have orcas hunting great white sharks, especially like adult male ones. I think it could vary depending on the ecosystem and what's actually happening, like whether they're like fighting over smaller prey or whether the orcas are purposefully actually hunting a great white. I'd definitely be interested to learn more about that. Thank you for the comment, Tread. Next, we have Tulsi, who says, have you heard the USS Indianapolis story? I need to look this one up, but if I remember correctly, there was like a torpedo attack that hit this ship, and then there's a bunch of people that like went into the ocean, and then they ended up dying, and I think there was like sharks in the water. Let me look this up. Indianapolis. Okay, so USS Indianapolis was a heavy U.S. Navy cruiser famous for its secret atomic bomb mission, tragic sinking, and the harrowing shark-infested survival ordeal of its crew.
Wow.
So let me just share this. So USS Indianapolis. Oh, one living survivor. Harold Bray is the last living survivor of USS Indianapolis. But yeah, I think there was, I'm just looking at a different tab here, but there was 1,195 men on board and only 316 survived, making it one of the worst sea disasters in history.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, here you go. Wild. And I think there's some stories about, so it was a Japanese submarine struck it with 2 torpedoes, triggering the worst sea disaster in the history of the US Navy. And then there's something about sharks. Yeah, so I think
so apparently when the ship was struck, it sank in 12 minutes. Now, of the 1,195 men on board, only about 800 to 900 men survived the sinking, but they endured 5 days of severe dehydration, hypothermia, saltwater poisoning, and relentless shark attacks. And so that's why out of like the 800 to 900 men who survived the attack and the sinking, only 316 survived, because the rest fell victim to dehydration, hypothermia, and shark attacks.
Wild.
Yeah, wow.
Imagine like you survive a ship sinking and then like there's sharks around.
That's like nightmare fuel right there, right?
No.
That's horrifying.
Wild.
Wow.
Thank you so much, Tulsi, for sharing that, and it was good to learn about this. I knew there was something about sharks, but it's good to know the details.
Yeah.
Next up, we have Checkmate Stallion, who says, fun fact, Greenland sharks are some of the oldest animals living between 200 to 500 years old. Nature is crazy. Yes, you are absolutely right. I imagine this was before I showed the video about Greenland sharks, but yeah, Goldie, we have such a smart viewership. Like, people just know their stuff. Yeah.
High IQ.
High IQ. High IQ. Thank you so much for the comment, Checkmate Stallion. Next up, okay, so you started this one for me, Goldie, by KR Spurl. Don't trust sharks. They'll spill your secrets. Ha ha ha. Very funny. I like that. That's a good one. Thanks for the comment, KR Spurl. Next up, you have Victory with a comment. Thanks for insightful programs. When you say get your permission slips signed / bus trip, etc., You take me back to junior high school days. When you do Q400 intro, it would be cool if you play in background Q400 liftoff sound. Okay, you know what? That's an interesting suggestion. I will try to get that background music. First, I have to remember to do the liftoff, and then I will accompany it with the liftoff sound. But that's actually a great suggestion. Thank you so much, Victory, for the suggestion and for the super chat. Really appreciate that. Next up, we have All For Arya, who says, oh, Goldie, this is like singing super chat. So I think you need to sing it for us.
Rose and Goldie, hi chat.
That wasn't singing, but
you sing. It's your channel.
But you're the singer.
Yeah, well, you know what? I'm like an international star now. So if you want me to sing, like I gotta make something out of it, right?
True.
So
that's true. Okay, we'll talk about.
I don't work for free. I don't work for free.
You know what? As you shouldn't.
I need some sort of commission for my beautiful vocal cords and my singing skills, right?
I agree. You know what, guys? Sorry, I try to get more singing out of her, but
show me the meaning. There you go.
Perfect. But yeah, thank you so much, Arya, for the super chat. Hello to you as well. And yes, hello, chat. Thank you all for being here tonight. And thank you for the comment. Next up, you highlighted Daniel's comment for me, which it says,
yeah, Daniel's one of your channel members. So I thought this was a very interesting question from one of your channel members.
Yeah, thank you so much for highlighting this for me. And so Daniel asks, Rose, is it true that a shark must keep moving or else it drowns? So I think this is true for some sharks. So it's not for all sharks, but some sharks do have to keep moving in order to be able to breathe, while others can stop swimming and kind of rest on the ocean floor. So it really depends on the species of shark. I think like fast, open ocean sharks like the great white and the mako sharks and the hammerheads rely more on like that ventilation that's needed as they swim forward to kind of force water through their gills. So if they stopped for too long, they wouldn't actually get enough oxygen for that. So yeah, like some of those sharks that require a lot of the open ocean swimming, yes, definitely they can't stay still for too long because they'll kind of not be able to breathe because they won't get enough oxygen kind of moving through their gills. But then you have species like nurse sharks and some other sharks that can actively kind of pump water over their gills using the muscles that they have existing in their mouths. And they're able to kind of lie more flat on the seafloor while still being able to breathe. So it really depends on species. Thank you for the question, Daniel. Next up, we have Stephen, who says helicopter prop vibration seemed to attract them in the Persian Gulf. 1988 jump and swim. Interesting. That's really cool. I'm trying to think back what part of the stream this was from. Helicopter prop vibration. You know what? It's not coming to me now, but thank you for the super chat, Stephen. I appreciate the support. And yeah. Okay, next up we have Push-Ups, who says, can sharks actually be trained by Mossad? You know what? From what I understand, anything and anyone can be trained by Mossad. So yes.
Mossad. It's Mossad.
Mossad. Potato, Goldie. We already went over this.
Guys, so sharks with laser beams, they're a thing. They're 100% a thing. Yes, Mossad has trained sharks with laser beams. I can confirm this because apparently I'm Mossad. So there we go, guys. But don't tell people that I'm Mossad, okay? Like this stays here. It's a secret. Secret. Anyways.
Thanks, Push-Ups, for the super chat. Next up, we have Timothy, who gifted 200 jewels. with Jammin'. I wonder what that gift was, but it must have been something fun. Thanks for the jewels, Timothy. Next, we have William, who is a new member. Welcome to the crew, William. You are part of the Gamma Rangers now, and it's exciting to have you. Thanks so much for being here. Next, we have Jane, who says the nurse shark is considered the couch potato of the sea. A lot of the time they're just kind of chilling on the seafloor. Also, part of that reason is because a lot of the things that they're eating is on the seafloor, whether it's like lobster or crab or some of that shellfish and clams and things like that. But yeah, they could definitely be considered the couch potatoes of the sea. We did not see anything about couch potatoes at the Canadian Potato Museum, though, unfortunately. I was expecting to see a picture of you, Goldie, but it didn't make it. Interference. I'm joking. That was mean. I'm sorry.
I mean, speaking of potatoes. Oh man.
Sorry. I love you. I'm joking.
I love you too.
And thank you, Jane. Next up, we have Checkmate Stallion, who says, another fun fact, moray eels have 2 sets of jaws, one at the back of the throat, which shoots out like in the movie Alien to swallow prey. Ew. Ooh, I think we need to look this up next. Moray eels. Ew, I mean, they're ugly, but I'm not seeing like the jaw shooting out. Let's see.
Ew, I kind of see it in that background screen. Like the third picture there.
Okay, let me pull that up.
Ew, like the third one. Look at that.
I don't know if this is real. This almost looks AI. Oops. I don't know. I don't know if it looks.
Is that? I can't tell if that's real or AI.
I can't tell either. It's going like it's leading me to a Facebook link.
Oh.
I don't know. Archaeology, news, and architecture.
Oh wait. Well, I mean, this is so it's called the pharyngeal jaw or something. Here, let me send this to you. Wikipedia has like a diagram of it. Here, let me send it to you in the studio chat.
Thank you. Okay. Pharyngeal jaws are a second set of jaws contained within an animal's throat or pharynx. Okay, so it doesn't look like the other picture, but I guess it's okay. So, this is interesting. So it's like in its throat over here.
And that is like the alien thing.
And then when it needs to, it like protrudes out, and now it's like here. So it's like
okay. So that's totally the alien.
That's the alien. That's the alien. Wow. Thank you, Checkmate, for more nightmare fuel. I love it. But like look at how many cool animals we have. Like creepy, but like fascinating. So interesting. Thank you so much for that, Checkmate. Next up, we have William, who says, if I'm out in the ocean, I'll be making friends with dolphins and orcas. Thank you. Yeah, I've heard orcas are surprisingly friendly. I need to fact check this as well, but dolphins, can also be friendly, but there are also a lot of dolphin attacks on humans and like SAs. Like there's like SA incidents between dolphins and humans. So, I mean, I haven't heard of a shark essaying a person, but, I've heard of dolphins essaying people. So do with that what you will. I know. And a part of it could just be because they're like so smart and like maybe curious and yeah, very interesting. Okay. Thanks, William. You be safe, William. You be safe in the ocean. Be careful. Take your, whistle with you if needed. Okay. Next up, we have omid. And you highlighted this for me, Goldie. Can it cut your skin? I think this is probably about the dermite,
The shark
skin.
tooth skin. Denticles, the denticles.
Yes, the denticles. And the answer is yeah. If you're not careful and like you like pet a shark the wrong way, which I don't recommend, it can certainly cut you. It can irritate your skin. It's not going to feel good. It definitely does feel like really, really rough sandpaper. So if you're ever in contact with a shark, remember head to tail. So it's like streamlined in that way. You'll be fine. It'll be smooth in that way. But if it's the other way, it can certainly cut and hurt your skin.
And then that would actually make it worse, because if the shark skin, like if it cuts your skin, then the shark smells blood and then it comes after you, right?
Yeah.
So
Well, I mean, at that point, it already knows you're there. Like it knows you're there.
Lot of like, bad reasons, like a lot of negative reactions or consequences to petting a shark the wrong way.
Yeah. But yeah, thank you for that. That's a great question. Next up, we have push-ups. What kind of shark was Rafsanjani?
I don't know if Rose knows the reference. So, push-ups, you'll have to wait until tomorrow, so I can give you and all of you the full context. But Rafsanjani was a Durka shark. He was a Durka shark. Rose, I don't think you know the story of why.
I don't know this one. I'll have to check out your stream tomorrow to learn more about it.
I'll explain why we call him a shark on Iran Revolution Live tomorrow. But push-ups, he was a Durka shark. Yes.
Durka shark. Okay. The more you know, the more you know.
Oh my God.
Next up, we have Tread, who gifted 5 memberships. Thank you so much, Tread, and welcome to all of the new Gamma Rangers. So nice to have you. Welcome, and thank you, Tread, for giving us, a bigger community. It's so fun to keep growing with you guys. Really appreciate that, Tread. Next up, we have Shaheen with Goldie. You highlighted this for me. Shaheen
He's
asked,
a member. I tried to highlight a few member questions as well.
Thank you. So Shaheen asks, is there a pack of sharks or all independent? This is an excellent question. So most sharks are actually solitary hunters, although sometimes they do gather in larger numbers. And Goldie, did you know that a group of sharks is actually called a shiver, which I think is really cool?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so a group of sharks is called a shiver. And unlike orcas, sharks don't really hunt with coordinated teamwork and assigned roles, I think similar to how orcas do it. But if you see several sharks feeding together, I don't think it's because they're all, coordinating that. It's typically because they're all attracted to the same kind of food source, not because there's any sort of coordinated attack. There are some exceptions. I think hammerhead sharks specifically can form schools of, hundreds of individuals during the day, possibly for things like protection or different mating opportunities. But when it is time to hunt, they do usually split up and kind of do that hunting alone. Sometimes if it's in the middle of a feeding frenzy and there's a lot of fish and schools of fish, some sharks may appear to be working together, but they're actually competing with one another. And each shark is trying to get its own meal instead of kind of sharing and thinking of the group collective. Great question. Thank you so much, Shaheen, for that. Stephen, oh wow, Stephen is really brave. So Stephen saw Jaws in 75 and then still joined the Navy in 76. So
Well, thank you for your service. And thank you to everyone who's serving.
thank you to all of our veterans. Thank you to everyone serving. Thank you, Stephen, for the super chat. And it just shows how brave some of our servicemen and women really are. Appreciate that. Next, we have Francis, who gave 60 joules, which is a poutine. God, I love poutine. There's just something about pouring hot gravy over like cheese curds and like having it melt on like fresh potatoes. Oh gosh, and just like eating that, so delicious. Love me a good poutine. Thank you for those joules, Francis. And then last but certainly not least, we have TFDX, who says, is Goldie going to be like One Direction? Yes. The answer is yes. Goldie is going to be like One Direction. I'm waiting for your show, Goldie, like your singing show. Daniel says he's hungry now. And we got one final super chat from Minor Dine. Good night, ladies. Good night to you, Minor Dine. Thank you all so much.
Rose, before you land the Q400, I'm just going to say my good night. So, it was so great to be here. And thank you for everything. I learned a lot about sharks and I really enjoyed the live stream. But I'm going to, head out so that you can do your conclusion and your final thoughts and, of course, land the plane. But guys, don't forget, make sure you like and subscribe to Rose's channel, The Gamma Ray Report. Every Sunday evening, it's an optional class field trip where we come here to kind of, take a break from geopolitics and all this stuff and just, have some fun, learn about a cool science topic, and really appreciate everything, Rose. So thank you so much. Love you. And to everyone who is watching, I will see all of you guys tomorrow.
Thank you so much, Goldie. And thank you for being here. Thank you guys also. Thank you to the chat. Thank you to the mods. Thank you to the mods, the chat, for everyone who participated in the comments, who sent super chats. Really appreciate all of you guys. It's been really fun getting back into it, and I love to learn about a specific topic and come share it with you guys. If you guys have an idea for what you want me to cover for next Sunday's live stream, let me know in the comments of this video once it's officially posted. I'd love to get some of your thoughts. I have some thoughts about what I want to do next Sunday, but still love hearing your thoughts. And with that, put on your seatbelts, everyone, because we are about to hop on board our Q400 Magic School plane and land from the ocean back to Earth. Guys, you made it safely. We're not shark food tonight. Okay, see you guys later. Bye.